Chapter 25-28. Although this soul-devouring beast king was also a beast king, it was definitely not the same as the one Night Sorrow and Yintiani had encountered in the small gravel world. Although the dark aura on its body was also very thick, its strength was only at upper-level high deity level. It was a level lower than the half-step high deity level beast kings that were split from the invincible high deity. Its spiritual intelligence was also much lower, and its body was filled with the instinctive murderous aura. Kill him. The soul-devouring beast king roared these three simple words very incoherently. After it gave the order, the hundreds of soul-devouring beasts around it all surrounded Night Sorrow. If I continue to use the dark aura to control the soul-devouring beast king, I'm afraid it will affect the recovery of the power of merit. I'd better fight with all my might. Now that Night Sorrow had advanced to upper-level feather god, both his strength and mentality had changed. Faced with the encirclement of many soul-devouring beasts, he raised his pitch-black long spear and fought with the soul-devouring beasts. Fighting in the Temple of the 33 Days was basically the same as fighting in reality. Night Sorrow, who used Essence Smoke and Star's hegemonic body, had a body that no soul-devouring beast could compare to. When he fought, he was like a wolf charging into a flock of sheep. Whether he encountered a lower-level high deity-level soul-devouring beast or a lower-level high deity-level soul-devouring beast, he basically killed them all in one move. Advancing to upper-level feather god, the change in strength is too great. This feeling is great. After fighting with the soul-devouring beasts continuously, Night Sorrow's body was not only indestructible, but the power of his god's soul was also much stronger than these soul-devouring beasts. The aura on his body was also constantly increasing. When he fought, he was quite invincible. Human cultivator, die. Seeing Night Sorrow killing the soul-devouring beasts under him, the soul-devouring beast king roared and charged forward. An upper-level high deity-level beast king, I wonder how strong it is. Facing the upper-level high deity-level soul-devouring beast king, Night Sorrow used the black spear to perform a simple and unadorned spear technique. Forbidden spear technique. Pfft. Before the soul-devouring beast king could perform any moves, it was instantly killed by the spear. Am I too strong, or is the soul-devouring beast too weak? Night Sorrow was slightly surprised that the soul-devouring beast king was killed so easily. However, at this moment, he saw that the soul-devouring beast king that he had killed had transformed into a god-tier defensive robe. He didn't think too much about it and continued to kill the soul-devouring beast to snatch the robe. There's no dark aura. Looks like this is the reward for killing the soul-devouring beast king. Could it be that in this Temple of the 33 Days, every time I kill a few king-rank soul-devouring beasts, I'll be rewarded? With an idea in mind, Night Sorrow immediately searched for other soul-devouring beast kings on the second floor after wiping out the entire group of soul-devouring beast kings. However, he discovered that there were no other beast kings on the second floor other than the one he had killed. Thus, when they reached the third floor, what Night Sorrow encountered on the third floor was not a soul-devouring beast, but a group of fire-type earth dragons. There were more than 10 earth dragons on the third floor, and one of them was an earth dragon king. After killing this earth dragon king, Night Sorrow obtained a god-tier fire-type longsword. He was a spear user, so he didn't pay much attention to the longsword. He simply threw it on the ground and rushed towards the Divine General's area. However, when he reached the entrance of the Divine General's area, Night Sorrow discovered that he couldn't enter at all. In the end, after some research, he discovered that the longsword rewarded for killing the Earth Dragon King was a pass to enter the Divine General's area. At this point, Night Sorrow basically understood that killing king-rank entities in the Temple of the 33 Days had its uses. The Divine General's area on the third floor didn't change much. It was still an Azura Divine General wielding dual blades, and its aura was almost exactly the same as an ordinary Azura Divine General on the third floor. After fighting with it for 2 hours, Night Sorrow successfully killed it and obtained a sparkling and translucent jade key. The key was definitely useful. He kept it in his pocket and continued to advance to the next floor. The 4th floor. The 5th floor. In less than 3 years, Night Sorrow defeated the 13th floor's Divine General and obtained the second key. However, it took him a full 30 years to defeat the 23rd floor's divine general. If that's the case, defeating the 33rd floor's divine general won't take 300 years. After collecting the reward from the 23rd floor's divine general, Knight Sorrow took the pill he obtained from killing the Beast King to recover his divine soul. He discovered that although the battles in the Temple of the 33 Days were basically the same as in the real world, the consumption of his divine soul was extremely high. After a fierce battle with a powerful Beast King or divine general, he had to take a pill to recover his divine soul. Otherwise, it would take him a year or two to fully recover. In the blink of an eye, Knight Sorrow had already spent 70 years in the Temple of the 33 Days. His divine soul had become a lot stronger during these 70 years of battle, and was now close to the half-step god realm. On this day, Knight Sorrow arrived at the 32nd floor and discovered that the Beast King on the 32nd floor was actually an Azura divine general with the same aura as the 23rd floor's divine general. These two divine generals were practically inseparable, wandering aimlessly on the 32nd floor. If he attacked one of them, he would definitely alert the other. At this time, Knight Sorrow had experienced dozens of years of battle on the 31st floor. His defensive and offensive divine weapons had reached the half-step divine lord level. He had accumulated a lot of good items, but he still felt a lot of pressure when facing these two powerful divine generals. I've already told the divine lords that I must pass this floor within 80 years. No matter what, I have to do it. If there are two of them, then so be it. I'll just fight. Knight Sorrow thought for a moment, then used Essence Chi Smoke, Star's hegemonic body, and 7 Stars Berserk Alcade. He adjusted his aura to its strongest state, then wielded the nameless blood-colored halberd he had obtained from the 30th floor, and fought against the two Azura divine generals. Just as he felt, these two Azura divine generals were exactly the same as the divine general on the 23rd floor. Their combat strength was just as shocking. After fighting for a while, Knight Sorrow found that he couldn't withstand the simultaneous attacks of two Azura divine generals. He immediately put some distance between them, then used the divine origin dragon locking formation on one of them, trapping it while attacking the other. This method was quite effective. But after using it a few times, Knight Sorrow felt the backlash of the 7 Stars Berserk Alcade. Helpless, he could only flee back to the 31st floor under the pursuit of the two Azura divine generals. Just like that, Knight Sorrow spent 2 years fighting the two Azura divine generals on the 32nd floor while recovering and fleeing. Finally, he exhausted one of the Azura divine generals to death. It turned out that Azura divine generals couldn't recover after being injured. Over time, they suffered enough damage and were naturally killed. With one of the Azura divine generals killed, Knight Sorrow fought the other one without any pressure. Not long after, he killed the other one. After the two Azura divine generals were killed, they turned into 2 divine talismans. The back of these 2 divine talismans were filled with complicated inscriptions, while the front had the image of the Azura divine general. Knight Sorrow guessed that these 2 divine talismans were the Azura divine general's summoning talismans. He didn't activate the divine talismans. After recovering, he rushed back to the 33rd floor. Chapter 25-29. Knight Sorrow knew that if he wanted to enter the 33rd floor, he had to kill the 3 Shura divine generals. Normally, with his strength, it was impossible. He did not hesitate and activated the 2 talismans in his hand. The talismans were activated and 2 Shura divine generals appeared. You two hold back the 2 on the left and right. I'll attack the one in the middle. Knight Sorrow controlled the 2 Shura divine generals with his soul. He had them each hold back 1 Shura divine general while he faced 1 Shura divine general alone. This way, there was no suspense in the battle. The 3 Shura divine generals were quickly killed and turned into summoning talismans. After the 3 Shura divine generals turned into summoning talismans, 6 identical Shura divine generals spawned not far away. Is this an unlimited respawn? No matter what, there must be a reason why the temple is here. Let's fight. I'll accumulate more summoning talismans. This time, Night Sorrow activated 3 summoning talismans and used his soul power to command the 5 Shura divine generals to fight the 6 divine generals in front of him. Commanding the 5 Shura divine generals at the same time, Night Sorrow's soul gradually felt a trace of pressure. However, the result was very good. They quickly killed all 6 divine generals and obtained another 6 divine talismans. Looks like they'll continue to spawn. After killing all 6 Azura divine generals, Yi Shang immediately swallowed 3 pills he had obtained from the temple and quickly recovered the power of his soul. At the same time, many Shura divine generals spawned not far away. Yi Shang's divine soul power had completely recovered. He took a closer look and found that 11 Shura divine generals had spawned, 1 less than he had estimated. Night Sorrow was controlling the 5 Shura divine generals. When he saw that 11 Shura divine generals spawned, he activated all 6 talismans in his hand. He led the 11 Shura divine generals to fight the newly spawned divine generals. The result was obvious. He did not lose a single one and successfully obtained 11 summoning talismans. Then, another 11 Shura divine generals spawned on the 33rd floor. This time, Night Sorrow did not use his summoning talismans and successfully killed them all. He obtained another 11 summoning talismans. At this point, Night Sorrow was controlling 11 Shura divine generals and had 22 summoning talismans in his hand. After that, the 33rd level became completely silent. No more Shura divine generals were spawned. There's a total of 33 summoning talismans. There must be a reason for this. The name of the palace was the Temple of the 33 Days. Night Sorrow had fought for so many years, and now he was standing in front of the Divine Champion area with 33 summoning talismans in his hand. He guessed that this was definitely not a coincidence. However, Night Sorrow couldn't figure out what exactly had happened. After fully recovering, he didn't linger for too long and directly entered the 33rd floor's God General area. Night Sorrow floated in the starry sky after entering the Divine General region of the 33rd level. The 33 vortex-shaped nebulas were irregularly distributed in the starry sky. In the starry sky, there were no powerful divine generals like he had imagined. 33 swirl-shaped nebulas. I have 33 summoning talismans of Shura Immortal General. It shouldn't be a coincidence. Let me try. Night Sorrow, who wasn't in the mood to make wild guesses, controlled an Shura Divine General and had it fly towards the nebula closest to him. When this Shura Divine General flew to the center of the nebula, a huge pillar of light suddenly erupted from the nebula. This pillar of light shot up into the sky and lit up the sky above the nebula. It seems that I need to control 33 Shura Divine Generals to activate the corresponding 33 skies of the nebula. The originally dim sky suddenly lit up. Night Sorrow immediately understood what was going on. He controlled the Shura Divine Generals to activate the corresponding skies of the nebula. By the time he released the 24th summoning talisman, he could clearly feel that his consciousness couldn't hold on any longer. He couldn't control any more divine generals. It seems that I can only use the 7-star Berserk Alcade to try my luck. Night Sorrow, who had continuously consumed pills to recover his consciousness, immediately used the 7-star Berserk Alcade, instantly increasing his consciousness's strength by 7 times. With his consciousness's strength increased by 7 times, controlling more divine generals wasn't a problem at all. However, Night Sorrow knew that his control wouldn't last for long because the backlash of the 7-star Berserk Alcade would soon arrive. He hurriedly activated all the remaining summoning talismans. At the same time, he controlled the remaining divine generals to fly towards the nebula in various directions. When the last Shura Divine General reached the nebula, the dazzling pillar of light was activated, and the 33 skies were completely activated. At the same time, the backlash of the 7-star Berserk Alcade arrived. Night Sorrow, who didn't have any soul recovery pills to consume, immediately became weak and uncontrollable. At this moment, golden origin energy floated out from each of the 33 skies. After this origin energy appeared, it immediately floated around Night Sorrow and slowly revolved around him. A familiar smell. The origin energy around him reminded Night Sorrow of the origin energy that Ling Yun had stolen when he first came to the God realm. This time, he greedily absorbed all the origin energy into his body. After absorbing all the origin energy from the 33 skies, not only did Night Sorrow completely recover, but his consciousness had also successfully reached the level of a half-step great deity. It's a pity that I can only increase my consciousness in the Temple of the 33 Days. If I can upgrade my cultivation and body, my strength will definitely increase qualitatively. Night Sorrow, who had recovered, felt that it was a pity. You've already obtained enough. You can't be too greedy. At this moment, a loud and clear voice was heard all of a sudden. This voice was very ethereal. Night Sorrow, who was floating in the starry sky, couldn't find the source of the voice. He immediately asked, "Who are you?" As he spoke, Night Sorrow didn't let his guard down. Because the challenge of the 33rd level was still ongoing, he didn't know what would happen. I'm the Divine General of the 33rd level. I'm also the person who stopped you from obtaining the secret technique. As long as you can defeat me, you can obtain the complete secret technique. Otherwise, you, who have 3 keys, can only obtain 3/4 of it. At this moment, a male cultivator holding a spear and riding a white horse appeared in the starry sky. The man had long hair and wore silver armor. There was a strong fighting spirit between his brows as he flew over from afar. However, this wasn't the main point. The main point was that he was a low-level divine lord. A true divine lord. The final test of the Temple of the 33 Days is to defeat a divine lord as a feather god. No wonder even someone as talented as Divine Lord Jin Yuan failed. Feather gods defeating great deities happened frequently in the god realm, but a feather god defeating a divine lord was simply unheard of. At least, Night Sorrow hadn't heard of it. However, he didn't retreat at all. He charged forward with his spear. Chapter 25-30. Ha ha ha. You are really funny. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, the spear-wielding silver-armored male cultivator immediately laughed out loud. He said disdainfully, "It's impossible for you to defeat me with your own strength. The divine generals that activate the 33 skies will help you. The 33 skies will also give you a boost. Otherwise, what will you use to fight me?" "With my determination to win." His opponent was a divine lord and was indeed very strong, but Night Sorrow didn't care at all. In his heart, there was only endless fighting spirit. He brandished his spear and shot out the forbidden spear. Although this spear was at the half-step divine lord level, it didn't have the samsara attribute and couldn't shoot out the samsara spear. The forbidden spear was already his strongest attack. Weak. Seeing Night Sorrow shoot out the forbidden spear, the silver-armored general laughed disdainfully and raised his halberd. Divine lords and feather gods were separated by high gods. They were already on different levels. His halberd immediately sent Night Sorrow flying. "You aren't strong either." After being sent flying, Night Sorrow got up and found that his body wasn't injured, but his divine soul was clearly weakened. He immediately understood that the key to fighting here was the divine soul. He tried to use his soul to communicate with the 33 divine generals. It really works. With his divine soul raised to the half-step high god level, he didn't need to use the 7-star berserk to control the 33 divine generals. Controlling the 33 divine generals made Night Sorrow feel as if he controlled the 33 heavens. With a thought, he used Grand Yellow Sky, Grand Brightness Sky, and Clear Brightness Sky to shoot out 3 beams of light. After these beams of light were shot out, they immediately connected to the silver-armored general's body. Being illuminated by these beams of light, his aura immediately weakened. It was effective. Night Sorrow continued to control the other 30 skies, shining all of them on the silver-armored general's body. Being illuminated by these beams of light, the silver-armored general's strength fell to the half-step divine lord level. However, he was still very strong, an unparalleled high god. Very good. Come and fight. As though he knew that Night Sorrow would make such a choice, the weakened silver-armored general immediately stabbed his halberd at Night Sorrow. Even though this halberd strike was simple and there seemed to be no changes, it gave off an illusion that it was difficult to dodge. Clam Dragon Eye, open. Night Sorrow, who was locked onto by the halberd, immediately activated the sea serpent's eye. After seeing through the attack, he dodged and stabbed the horse's hind leg with his spear. After being stabbed by the spear, the white horse under the silver-armored general immediately went limp and threw him off. You actually managed to dodge my attack. You have some strength. However, you are not worthy of Master's secret technique. After being thrown out, the general immediately floated above the stars. He didn't use his halberd for this attack. Instead, 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes. Soul attack. The moment the 2 beams of light shot out, Night Sorrow used the sea serpent's eye to observe them. He immediately used the vanishing shadow void escape to hide in the void. It's useless. You can't dodge this attack at all. The silver-armored general, who was floating in the starry sky with his halberd in hand, had a look of disdain on his face. There was no way to dodge his soul attack. 7-star Berserk Alcade. Night Sorrow had the sea serpent's eye, so he could see that he couldn't withstand the 2 soul attacks. He immediately used the 7-star Berserk and adjusted his soul power to its strongest state. Buzz. Even so, Night Sorrow, who was hit by the attack, still felt his spirit sea shake violently. His soul power was clearly fluctuating, causing the light of the 33 skies to become unstable. If Night Sorrow hadn't cultivated the myriad Tao Tome and drunk a lot of enlightenment wine, his spirit sea would have been destroyed by this attack. Origin source power, backfire on him. Under such circumstances, Night Sorrow, who was gradually stabilizing himself, used the remaining origin source power to launch a counterattack against the silver-armored general. After being attacked by the origin source power of the 33 skies, the silver-armored general's eyes immediately bled and he screamed in pain. Origin source power is indeed powerful. After succeeding in one strike, Night Sorrow took advantage of the bleeding eyes of the silver-armored general to immediately use the illuminating sky dragon capturing hands to grab his head. This was an ultimate technique that he hadn't used in a long time because its grade was too low. Scram! The silver-armored general subconsciously counterattacked, preparing to send Night Sorrow flying. Although he had been weakened by the 33 skies, he still had the strength of an invincible high god. He had the advantage in terms of raw strength and was able to force Night Sorrow back. But at this moment, the spear that Night Sorrow controlled with his soul power suddenly pierced through the void, stabbing straight at the silver-armored general's spirit sea. Oh no! The silver-armored general wanted to dodge, but it was too late. His spirit sea was suddenly pierced, and the silver-armored general who had his spirit sea pierced immediately turned into a key. The white horse that came with him turned into origin source power and poured into Night Sorrow's body. After suffering the backlash of the 7-star Berserk, Night Sorrow immediately returned to his peak state. Did I succeed? It seems a little easier than I thought. After recovering, Night Sorrow felt his soul power increase again, reaching the peak of the Feather God realm. He immediately stopped absorbing the 33 skies origin source power. At the same time, a ladder that led straight to the heavens appeared in the starry sky before him. After walking down the ladder for 33 days, Night Sorrow finally reached the end of the ladder. This was a huge stone door that was shrouded in dense fog. Before Night Sorrow could do anything, the 4 keys on his body automatically flew out and flew into the 4 keyholes on the stone door. After the stone door opened, a very thin piece of gold leaf flew out. This piece of gold leaf flew out of the stone door and floated in front of Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow tried to grab it, but he couldn't. He immediately used his soul power to sense it and absorbed it into his spirit sea. The secret technique of the 33 stars. This was Night Sorrow's last thought in the Temple of the 33 Days. Following that, he returned to Divine Lord Jinyuan's side. Night Sorrow slowly opened his eyes. After waking up and seeing Divine Lord Jinyuan, he immediately said, "Divine Lord, I did it. Now, you can tell me how to resolve High Bay City's crisis." "Good, very good. You have indeed successfully obtained the secret technique in less than 80 years. Divine Lord Jinyuan praised with an awkward expression. He said, I'm ashamed to say that the way to resolve the crisis is to completely recover. If I can recover, I should be able to break through to the Divine King realm very quickly. In that case, the threat of the soul-devouring beast will naturally be resolved. Oh. Divine Lords can be revived? There's still a chance to break through to the Divine King realm. If Senior Tianqing knows about this, she will definitely be very happy. Hearing Divine Lord Jinyuan say that he had a chance to be revived, Knight Sorrow immediately said, Divine Lord's revival must have something to do with the secret technique I obtained. You can just tell me how I should cooperate. Knight Sorrow was extremely respectful towards Imo Yuqian, Divine Lord Jinyuan, and Ao Feng, seniors with great spirit. If you want me to be revived, not only do you need the secret technique, you also need a very special elixir. This elixir hasn't appeared for several reincarnations. It's almost extinct in the realm of the gods. However, Tianqing's family has some clues. Divine Lord Jinyuan explained and handed Knight Sorrow an envelope. He said, actually, there were 2 letters left for Tianqing. Now that you have successfully obtained the secret technique, she has received the one with hope. That's for the best. Knight Sorrow was very happy with such an outcome. Here are some cultivation resources that I have prepared for you. Take them and leave. Divine Lord Jinyuan handed Knight Sorrow a ring and opened a path to the outside world. It's time for a new journey. Knight Sorrow slowly stepped into the teleportation door and waved goodbye to Divine Lord Jinyuan. After a while, he appeared outside the cave dwelling. Chapter 25-31. The Divine Lord was a middle-aged male cultivator. His horse-like face was filled with a thick bloodlust. He stood on a flying sword that suffused a cold black light. Good lad. Knight Sorrow, oh Knight Sorrow, you are finally out. You have made me wait for a long time. After Divine Lord Horseface approached, he immediately enveloped Knight Sorrow with his divine domain. He had been waiting in Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave abode for 80 to 90 years. His heart was filled with endless resentment. You sure are persistent. However, I'm afraid you will have waited for nothing for the past 100 years. Knight Sorrow had some impression of this Divine Lord. Back when he and Yuntiani left the cave abode to rest, he had been attacked from a distance. However, he had not been injured. Later on, he heard from Huang Lai that this Divine Lord had intercepted him. The present Knight Sorrow might not be able to defeat a low-level Divine Lord, but he would definitely have no problem protecting himself. He was extremely calm when facing Divine Lord Horseface. Punk, how arrogant. Do you so-called invincible feather gods really think that no one in the divine world other than the Divine King and the ruler can subdue you? I, Wen Jingfang, am a Divine Lord who has never been on any ranking list. Today, I will teach you a lesson and take away all your light from Providence. Wen Jingfang was a Divine Lord, but in the eyes of the ruler and the Divine King, his value was inferior to that of an invincible high god. He was even inferior to Jade Conch, who was ranked in the top 10 of the Feather God list. Normally, he would bow and scrape when he saw these geniuses, but in fact, he was extremely displeased. Now that he had encountered an invincible feather god like Knight Sorrow, he wanted to torture him before killing him and taking away his light from Providence. Plundering the light from Providence was also one of the reasons why he had been waiting at the cave abode's entrance. If you want to take away my light from Providence, we will have to see if you have the ability to do so. There was only one Divine Lord present. Knight Sorrow had no intention of retreating immediately. Now that his cultivation level had risen to a high-level high god, his yuan qi had increased greatly. In addition, his power of merit and divine soul had reached the peak of the feather god realm. Although he could not use the power of merit, he wanted to try fighting a Divine Lord. After all, the white-armored Divine Lord in the Temple of the 33 Days wasn't considered a complete Divine Lord. When he fought, he only targeted the soul. In response, Knight Sorrow released his god domain to fight against Wen Gongfang's god domain, and immediately shattered the god domain binding him. ability? As a divine monarch, even my breath is something an ant like you can't resist. Just accept your fate. Today, this seat will let you understand that a genius who has yet to rise is no different from trash. Wen Gongxing's divine domain was broken, but he didn't seem to care at all. He raised his hand and struck out a palm towards Knight Sorrow's chest, wanting to shatter all the bones in his body. You will pay the price for underestimating me like this. It's just a divine lord, what's there to be arrogant about? Although Wen Jingfang's palm strike was a divine lord strike, it was an ordinary palm strike. At that time, the shadow guarding the jade conch had used a secret technique. Even Knight Sorrow had blocked it. Facing this palm, he had used Essence Chi Smoke Beacon, Star's hegemonic body, and 7 Stars Berserk Alcade to counterattack. Bang! After the two of them collided, Wen Gongfang's body flew out. Moreover, although Knight Sorrow's strength was about the same as his, the strength of his body was much higher. This palm strike had directly shattered the bones in his hand. Little bastard, you are courting death. Blood Fiend Red Lotus Sword. Wen Gongfang had the arrogance of a divine lord, but his hand had been shattered by Knight Sorrow's strike. He was so angry that he was stamping with rage. He condensed his divine essence and controlled the flying sword to use a secret technique. It pierced towards Knight Sorrow's dantian, wanting to cripple him. At the same time, Wen Gongfang threw out a secret treasure and imprisoned Knight Sorrow, trapping him on the spot. Samsara Strike. Being imprisoned by a divine monarch's secret treasure, Knight Sorrow indeed didn't have the ability to escape in an instant. He immediately used the Samsara halberd and used the Samsara strike to clash head-on with his opponent. However, Wen Gongfang's Blood Fiend Red Lotus sword was a little strange. When facing the Samsara halberd, it actually split into 2 swords. One blocked the Samsara halberd, while the other circled around and continued to stab towards Knight Sorrow's dantian. Clang! At the critical moment, Knight Sorrow used the illuminating sky dragon capturing hand and forcibly pulled the flying sword away from its original direction. However, the flying sword's sword energy still shot into Knight Sorrow's chest, causing him to suffer some injuries. Haha! Kid, you have been struck by the Blood Fiend Red Lotus sword's sword energy. You won't live for more than 2 hours. Your providence already belongs to me. Seeing Knight Sorrow being struck by the sword energy, Wen Gongfang immediately laughed wantonly. His Blood Fiend Red Lotus sword had a very strong corrosive effect. It was equivalent to an extremely high-grade poison. It was one of his trump cards. You should worry about yourself. After Knight Sorrow was struck by the sword energy, the power of merit in his body immediately came out to purify the Blood Fiend Chi. Knight Sorrow discovered that although the power of merit could not be used to attack at will, it could automatically protect its owner at critical moments. At the same time, he noticed that Wen Gongfang's flying sword had not completely blocked the Samsara strike. After being injured, his aura had clearly weakened. Wen Gongfang's aura fluctuated between a divine lord and a half-step divine lord. Knight Sorrow immediately held the Samsara halberd horizontally and stabbed at Wen Gongfang with a simple spear. With Wen Gongfang's strength, he could completely dodge this spear. However, his aura did not seem strong, so he did not choose to dodge. Instead, he held his flying sword and chose to take it head-on. Samsara halberd, burn for me. At this moment, Knight Sorrow used the sea serpent's eye and saw through the area that Wen Gongfang could block. He let the Samsara halberd release flames to burn the area that Wen Gongfang could not block and could only use his divine domain to protect. In an instant, Wen Gongfang's divine domain was destroyed and his body was burned by the flames. Little bastard, you deserve to die. Wen Gongfang, who was burned by the flames, angrily threw his secret treasure at Knight Sorrow again. He wanted to imprison him again and carry out a follow-up attack. Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array. Knight Sorrow, who had already been hit once, was clearly prepared. He immediately used the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array to imprison Wen Gongfang's secret treasure, causing it to temporarily lose its effect. What kind of move is this? Wen Gongfang was extremely surprised that Night Sorrow could easily isolate a Divine Lord-level secret treasure in another world. In the moment that he was momentarily distracted, Night Sorrow took out 2 half-step Divine Lord-level divine talismans from his pocket. After activating them, he threw them at Wen Gongfang. After being struck by the 2 half-step Divine Lord-level divine talismans, Wen Gongfang, who was already burned by the flames, immediately suffered heavy injuries. This is a move that will take your life. Night Sorrow, who seized the opportunity, was like a ferocious beast in human form. He immediately pounced at Wen Gongfang and fought with him. With the support of the Azure Phoenix battle armor, Night Sorrow, who had an extremely strong body to begin with, instantly tore Wen Gongfang's body in half. Damn little bastard. Your combat strength is actually so strong. You are much more terrifying than Jade Conch. It looks like I have kicked an iron plate this time. This seat must immediately flee. Wen Gongfang, whose body had been torn apart, was a divine lord after all. He controlled his divine essence energy to forcefully reassemble his body. He was extremely unwilling to be defeated by a feather god, but in a situation where he was suppressed, he had no chance to use many of his techniques. He could only choose to flee. Blood Fiend Red Lotus Sword, Self-Destruct. Chapter 25-32. Oh no. I can't withstand the self-destruction of a monarch god artifact. In the face of the Blood Fiend Red Lotus Sword self-destruction, Night Sorrow used the Sea Serpent's Eye to analyze the escape route and immediately used Vanishing Shadow. Boom! The valley outside the cave collapsed the moment the Blood Fiend Red Lotus Sword self-destructed. Night Sorrow's divine essence dragon locking formation was also broken. However, Wen Gongfang, who wanted to escape, did not have the time to retrieve the Scarlet Gold Dragon Mark, the secret treasure that locked down space. When Night Sorrow returned, he immediately sensed the aura of the red golden dragon seal and summoned it to his hand. He realized that he wasn't strong enough to erase Wen Gongfang's seal, so he rushed back to High Bay City with it. After returning to High Bay City, Night Sorrow's first stop was the courtyard he had arranged for Night Moon's people. Arriving at the courtyard, Yi Shang heaved a sigh of relief. Flying in the air, he saw his wife and daughter drinking tea in the courtyard, including Lin Piaomiao, who had been injured by Ling Yun. Now, not only had Lin Piaomiao fully recovered, she had also advanced to the divine realm. Her complexion was even better than before. I'm relieved that everyone is well. Seeing his wife and daughter chatting and laughing with Jing Yun while drinking tea, Yi Shang knew that nothing had happened in the courtyard. Otherwise, everyone would not be so relaxed. Afterward, he used his divine sense to investigate the courtyard. He wanted to find Yi Linghuan and Yi Xiaoluo to see if they had recovered. However, he discovered that his divine sense could not penetrate the courtyard at all. It was clearly blocked by a defensive array. The formation I set up has been strengthened. It seems like Senior Tianqing helped. Night Sorrow cared about his family and friends the most. He wanted to fly down and reunite with them immediately. However, he still had the letter left by the god Jinyuan. He flew directly to Long Tianqing's residence. Night Sorrow, do you have time to talk to me? However, when Yi Shan was just a short distance away from the courtyard, a voice came from behind him. He paused and saw that it was Mingi. He asked, "Hi God Mingi, what do you want?" I heard that little friend Night Sorrow entered the abode of the Jinyuan Divine Lord. Have you seen my children? When Mingi asked, there was a hint of coldness in his tone. I've seen them, but I don't know where they went because I didn't travel with them. High deity, when I fell from grace, you gave me a mansion. Let me give you this half-step Divine Lord level defensive robe as a return gift. Night Sorrow had indeed received a favor from Styx. He took out a defensive robe that he had obtained from the Temple of the 33 Days and handed it over. This robe was much better than the one Mingi was wearing. It was enough to repay the favor of the mansion. Mingi's eyes lit up when he saw the robe. He took the robe without any hesitation, even forgetting about his children. After putting it on, Zhang Xian activated it with his divine energy and tested its might. After trying it on, he was very satisfied and praised, "This robe is really good. I like it very much. In that case, we'll part ways here. If I can find out any news about your son and daughter from my friends in the future, I'll be sure to inform you immediately." Knight Sorrow didn't have a good impression of Mingy. After returning the favor, he prepared to leave immediately and rushed to Long Tianqing's mansion. Wait. Mingy's expression suddenly changed. "Although this robe is good, I feel that the secret treasure in your hand is more suitable for me. How about this, leave the secret treasure, and I'll let you go." "What? High deity Mingy, are you trying to snatch the secret treasure from me?" Knight Sorrow's expression immediately changed. He could give it to Mingy, but it was a completely different matter if someone else took it. "You can think of it as snatching or coercion, but if you don't hand it over, I'll attack you immediately." Mingy threatened and released the divine domain of a lesser high deity. He wanted to use pressure to intimidate Knight Sorrow. "We can get along harmoniously. Why do you have to make things difficult for me?" When they left the cave, Knight Sorrow had defeated a lesser divine lord. Why would he be afraid of a lesser high deity? Seeing Mingy's arrogant look, he shook his head helplessly. Knight Sorrow didn't attack Mingy immediately. He looked at Mingy and said, "I'll let you go this time on account of our past friendship. Go back to where you came from. I can pretend that this never happened. Ha ha ha. 80 years ago, I could crush you like an ant. Now, even if you've improved your strength, you're still no match for me. Since you don't want to give me face, I'll crush you to death." Mingy seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world when he heard Knight Sorrow's words. After laughing wildly for a while, he immediately gathered his divine origin energy and released his divine domain to crush Knight Sorrow. Sigh. It seems that as an itinerant cultivator, you're really uninformed. Before entering the cave, Knight Sorrow had already defeated Feng Xiaoyun and obtained a contract with the Jubao Pavilion. Therefore, he was being hunted by the Shadow Pavilion. Mingy still didn't know about this until now. Seeing that Mingy was overestimating himself and releasing his divine domain, Knight Sorrow sneered and released his own divine domain. Buzz! Knight Sorrow released his divine domain and immediately suppressed Mingy, making him feel like he was trapped in a swamp. You've become so much stronger. This. Mingy, who was suddenly suppressed, was dumbfounded. However, he didn't stop immediately. Instead, he used a secret technique to adjust his strength to the strongest state and released the heaven-tearing palm print. This was one of his strongest unique skills that he had inherited from a divine lord. Some forces really didn't leave any talented cultivators in High Base City. Mingy's strength was too weak. Facing his unique skill, Knight Sorrow gently waved his palm and sent him flying. At this time, he remembered that Wu Xian suppressed High Base City. He thought that after dealing with the divine Lord Jinyuan, he must find a way to rescue some talented cultivators and send them away. Go to hell. Mingy, who was sent flying, spat out several mouthfuls of blood. Seeing that Mingy was sent flying by Knight Sorrow, some of the nearby cultivators who were attracted by the sound of the battle and came to watch the battle were immediately stunned. For a long time, the 5 high gods were the gods of High Base City. Now, Mingy was defeated on the spot and was crushed by a strong force. Some of the cultivators who had come into contact with Knight Sorrow at the Sea and Sky Grand Bazaar immediately explained the origin of Knight Sorrow to others. How can this Knight Sorrow be so strong? If they continue to fight, they will definitely die. It won't be easy to escape from him. He cultivates the power of merit. If the innocent cultivators are in danger, he will definitely save them. I might as well go all the way. The difference in strength was too big. Knowing that he couldn't defeat Knight Sorrow, Mingy immediately gave up the idea of coveting the secret treasure. He took out a dozen high god level talismans, activated them, and blasted them in all directions at some of the cultivators who were watching the battle. Chapter 25-33. This is truly a sin committed by the heavens that can be pardoned. Seeing that Mingi had done such a ruthless thing, Night Sorrow immediately used the divine essence dragon locking formation to lock Mingi and the talismans in a sealed space. Buzz! Not long after, the sound of talismans exploding could be heard in the sealed space. Mingi didn't even have the chance to scream before he was blasted to death by the talisman he had thrown out. In fact, if he hadn't activated so many talismans, the defensive robe Night Sorrow had given him could have saved his life. If you're not injured, you can leave now. Mingi had been killed by the talisman he had thrown out. Night Sorrow took back the defensive robe he had given him, cupped his hands, and prepared to leave. At this time, City Lord Shangguan Yun arrived with his men. When he saw Night Sorrow, he scolded with a cold face. Do you know that there are rules in High Bay City? I know. I can't attack for no reason. Night Sorrow, who was holding the crimson golden dragon insignia in his hand, knew that Shangguan Yun didn't have good intentions, but he still replied calmly, preparing to use peaceful means before resorting to force. Since you know, why did you attack in front of everyone and kill High God Mingi? Shangguan Yun's body carried the aura of a superior. He attacked for no reason and snatched the crimson golden dragon insignia from me. In the end, he threw out the talisman and killed himself. It had nothing to do with me. Night Sorrow observed Shangguan Yun and the people behind him as he replied. One of the cultivators behind him was a high god. If not for the sea serpent eye, Night Sorrow wouldn't have been able to see through him. I'll find out what happened. If you didn't do it, come with me to the City Lord Mansion and explain everything. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Night Sorrow's potential had reached the point where he had to control himself. Moreover, he had killed a disciple of the Shangguan clan. Shangguan Yun naturally wouldn't let him go. Shangguan Yun, since you are completely unreasonable, there is no need for you to continue being the governor. From Shangguan Lin to Shangguan Lei to Shangguan Hai on the God of Feathers list, none of them were good people. Facing Shangguan Yun, who was also from the Shangguan clan, Night Sorrow explained a little and didn't have the mood to continue talking nonsense. How could he go to the City Lord's mansion? How dare you? Take him down. Shangguan Yun, who was berated by Night Sorrow, immediately gave the order with a murderous expression. Everyone from the City Lord's mansion, including that high god, immediately surrounded Night Sorrow. Everyone saw it. Today, the City Lord, Shangguan Yun, indiscriminately framed a good person. Now, I, Night Sorrow, will abolish his City Lord position. Night Sorrow shouted to the onlooking cultivators as he faced the crowd that surrounded him. Then, he took out the heavenly samsara halberd and held it horizontally in his hands. This aura. I know, the person who killed young Master Lin is this person. I can't be wrong about the aura of this divine weapon. When Night Sorrow took out the heavenly samsara halberd, Umbra immediately confirmed it to Shangguan Yun. What? Are you sure? Shangguan Yun's expression immediately changed. Previously, when he was fighting in the treasure-gathering pavilion, this subordinate only had suspicions. Now, I can confirm that he is the one who killed young Master Lin. Umbra immediately confirmed. Good, very good. If I take back the token in his hand, it will definitely be a great merit. That's the treasure that the Divine Monarch Patriarch wants back. Shangguan Yun laughed loudly. What he was thinking about was the black diamond-shaped token that Night Sorrow had obtained when he killed Shangguan Lin. What's going on? Just as Shangguan Yun and Umbra were communicating, Night Sorrow had already killed that high god. Shangguan Yun raised his head and saw that his strongest high god, Shangguan Ming, had already been killed. How could he be in the mood to continue fighting? He transmitted his voice to the city's hidden sentries about Night Sorrow and used an escape technique to escape. Shangguan Yun, where do you think you're going? Seeing that Shangguan Yun wanted to escape, Night Sorrow immediately used the Divine Origin Dragon locking array to restrain him. When the others saw that Shangguan Yun was captured, they all chose to self-detonate, wanting to pose a threat to Night Sorrow. You guys are somewhat loyal, but it's useless. The self-detonation of the people from the City Lord's mansion seemed tragic, but Yishang's god domain and the defense of the Blue Phoenix battle armor weren't something they could break. Their self-detonation was like moths flying into a flame. It didn't have any effect. Soon after, Night Sorrow sealed Sheng Guanyun's cultivation and made him give up resisting. He kept him in the Clear Sky Pagoda and rushed to Long Tianqing's residence. Just like before, Night Sorrow used the taboo attribute to pass the erase test and appeared in Long Tianqing's courtyard. Today's Long Tianqing is somewhat different from before. In the past, she was wearing coarse hemp clothes. Today, she is wearing a red robe and her face is also smeared with rouge. Originally, she had that kind of otherworldly appearance, giving people the feeling of an otherworldly expert. Dressing up like this, she is more beautiful and alluring. Senior Tianqing, thank you for saving my family. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. This is the letter that the Divine Lord gave you. Night Sorrow placed the crimson golden dragon insignia on the ground and thanked Long Tianqing with a bow. He took out the letter that Divine Lord Jinyuan gave him. Long Tianqing's eyes suddenly welled up with tears. She raised her head and wiped away her tears. She choked and said, Brother Yuan, come out. Tianqing. I've let you down. Just as Long Tianqing opened her mouth, Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom flew out of the letter. I've only waited for a few days. One day, we will live together again. Long Tianqing's voice was trembling. She reached out to grab Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom but passed through his body. This scene was very cruel. Night Sorrow, who was at the side, was somewhat moved. In these years, did the dragons continue to make things difficult for you? Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom was also somewhat emotional. Before he could finish his sentence, Long Tianqing interrupted him and said, Ignore them. Big Brother Yuan, what should I do to be able to save you? Now, Night Sorrow has obtained a secret technique from the Temple of the 33 Days that can strengthen the soul. With his help, my soul can be perfectly restored. If I want to restore my physical body, I need a heavenly phoenix myriad transformations elixir. Divine Lord Jinyuan looked at Long Tianqing after explaining. He knew that Long Tianqing's family had information about the heavenly phoenix myriad transformations elixir. Heavenly Phoenix Myriad Transformations Elixir? I heard my father mention it before. I heard that this elixir came from Tianyun School. However, it hasn't appeared in a long time. Long Tianqing's brows revealed a trace of sadness. An elixir that hadn't appeared in the God realm for a long time might not appear again. Where is Tianyun School? Maybe I can go and check. Now that Night Sorrow had offended the Dark Moon Dominator's residence, he definitely couldn't stay in High Bay City. After talking to Long Tianqing and Jinyuan, he prepared to leave with his family. When he heard about the Heavenly Phoenix Myriad Transformations Elixir, he immediately asked. Tianyun School is located at the intersection of the Tianai Dominators region, the Seven Stars Dominators region, and the Dark Moon Dominators region. That region is called the Cloud Immortal Continent. It's a pure land that the Dominators won't interfere with. There are 7 major sects there, and Tianyun School is one of them. Chapter 25-34. There's such a place in the God realm? It just so happens that I offended someone from the Dark Moon Dominator's residence. I can join the Tianyun School and lie low for a while. While raising my strength, I can search for the Heavenly One of all transformations pill. Seeing Long Tianqing's anticipation, Night Sorrow pondered for a moment, then spoke his mind. There was no harm in doing so, and he could help God's sovereign Jinyuan and Long Tianqing. He had no reason to refuse. Sit down and have some tea. I was a little rude. After Yishang spoke, the worry in Long Tianqing's heart immediately vanished. She got Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image and Yishang to sit down as she personally brewed tea. After pouring a cup for Night Sorrow, Long Tianqing said, I know that you offended the Dark Moon Dominator's residence. For now, they won't send experts above the Divine Lord level. I can help you stop them. If you have any problems in the near future, you can handle them without worry. Senior Tianqing, I have an elder who was captured by a high god called Ling Yun. He works under the Purple Mansion Divine Lord. I wonder if Senior Tianqing knows them. Knight Sorrow indeed had many things to take care of. However, Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Xiaoluo had all recovered. The most important thing left was to rescue Wu Lingfei. Knight Sorrow had deep feelings for Wu Lingfei. He hoped to save her from this abyss of suffering as soon as possible. I've never heard of Ling Yun. The Purple Mansion Divine Lord is an invincible Divine Lord on the Divine Lord ranking. I know him, but I've never interacted with him. His true form is a sky-devouring sparrow, and he's extremely evil. Long Tianqing took a sip of tea and continued, he's under the Divine King of Azura, and the Divine King of All Heaven is a subordinate of the All Heaven ruler. Those people have a bad reputation. I'll discuss this matter with Zifu Divine Lord first. If he's willing to back down, it's best that we resolve this peacefully. If not, we'll think of a way to get your friend back. Thank you, Senior Tianqing. However, no matter how this matter is resolved, I have to kill Ling Yun. Knight Sorrow said. Then, he told her about how all the talented cultivators in High Bay City had been suppressed by Wu Xin's men. This Wu Xian is truly an ungrateful person. At that moment, Sir God Jinyuan was only an illusion. However, when he heard what Wu Xian had done, he was so angry that he almost exploded. He had put in so much effort for High Bay City, but in the end, he had cultivated Wu Xian, this ingrate. His family had been crushed to pieces. Divine Lord, Senior Tianqing, what I mean is that before we leave High Bay City for Tianyun School, we should try our best to rescue the people who are being suppressed. Knight Sorrow said slowly. He was prepared to rescue them and bring them to the Cloud Immortal Continent so that they could cultivate again. This way, he would be able to answer to Mo Yuqian. This matter is very difficult. I'm not a member of the Dark Moon Dominator's territory. If I act rashly, I might alert the Divine King or the Lord. That would be troublesome. After all, the matter of Wu Lingfei only involved 1 or 2 people. Long Tianqing could help. However, rescuing all the geniuses who had been suppressed in High Bay City for so many years involved too many people. It wasn't convenient for her to act. It's okay. I can do this myself. Knight Sorrow thought of the Dark Alliance that Yuntiani was in. He was going to find time to contact Elder Zhuang He to see if he could come up with a suitable rescue strategy. At the same time, he was going to inquire about Yuntiani's whereabouts. Sai, this matter is on your shoulders alone. As a Divine Lord, I can't do anything to help. Sir God Jinyuan's face was filled with an apologetic look. Divine Lord, don't worry. I will do my best to rescue all your clansmen. Then, I will find the Heavenly Phoenix Myriad Transformation Pill and restore your body. There were only 800 to 900 years left before the soul-devouring beast was born. Knight Sorrow hoped that Sir God Jinyuan could recover as soon as possible. You can handle these matters yourself. Long Tianqing sighed. There were some things that she really couldn't do anything about. All right. In that case, Knight Sorrow shall not disturb Divine Lord and Senior Tianqing from catching up. After saying what needed to be said, Knight Sorrow finished the tea in his cup and stood up to leave. I have set up a new array formation in the courtyard where your family is. This is the array formation diagram. Take it out and study it. Before Knight Sorrow left, Long Tianqing handed him an array formation diagram. Thank you, Senior Tianqing. I won't stand on ceremony with you. After receiving the array formation diagram, Knight Sorrow turned and walked out of Long Tianqing's residence slowly. Then, he flew towards the courtyard where his family was. During the flight, Knight Sorrow memorized the contents of the array formation diagram. When he reached the entrance of the courtyard, he didn't inform any of his family members. Instead, he followed the instructions on the array formation diagram and broke through the array formation. When Knight Sorrow walked into the courtyard, his wife and daughter were there. Lin Piaomiao was the first to see Knight Sorrow. She immediately stood up and said emotionally, all these years, she wanted to say some words of concern, but before she could finish her sentence, she choked up a little. All these years, she, Yi Linghuan, and Yi Xiaoluo had suffered a lot. However, she knew that Night Sorrow must have had a much harder time than her. 13. You are back. When Lin Piaomiao spoke, the others also noticed Night Sorrow. Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, Aoi, and the others all stood up. All these years, I have owed you all too much. Night Sorrow walked in front of the girls and said emotionally. Don't say that. You were the one who fought outside and brought resources and peace to this family. Everyone saw it. Now that you are back, take a good rest. Sikong Chuyu took out a reclining chair for Night Sorrow. This time, I might have to migrate with everyone again. That Jubao Pavilion was the property of the Dark Moon Dominator. Night Sorrow sat on the reclining chair. When he talked about Jubao Pavilion, his face was full of guilt. Ever since they came to the Divine Realm, Night Moon Dominator had been living without a fixed residence. Hearing this, Yang Lei immediately said worriedly, Neopatian and Yuan Shenro have been in Jubao Pavilion for decades. 13. Do you want to go and take a look? Yes. I should go and take a look. Wait a moment, I will be back soon. Night Sorrow took a sip of tea and put down the teacup. He said something to everyone and rushed to Jubao Pavilion. When he arrived at Jubao Pavilion, Night Sorrow saw that Jubao Pavilion was currently open for business. Neopatian and Yuan Shenro were standing in front of the door to welcome guests. Both of them had sealed their cultivation and looked very weak. Bastard! Who told you to come out and do this? When he saw the two of them, Night Sorrow immediately flew to their side and removed the restraints on their bodies. Captain. When he realized that it was Night Sorrow, he came to Neopatian and shouted excitedly. Then, his expression changed drastically. Captain, let's go. There are a few powerful exalted gods in Jubao Pavilion now. Yes, my lord, run. Don't worry about us. Yuan Shenro's eyes were also filled with worry. She had come to Jubao Pavilion to help manage it after reaching the divine feather level. Chapter 25-35. Who are you? How dare you save the Pavilion Master's criminal? As soon as Neopatian and Yuan Shenro finished speaking, several half-step feather gods rushed out of the Jubao Pavilion. After berating Night Sorrow, they realized that they couldn't see through his cultivation level and immediately shut their mouths, afraid that they would be slapped to death. The two of you, come with me. Since they are doing business in this shop, we will collect all the items in the Jubao Pavilion as rent. Night Sorrow led Neopatian and Yuan Shenro into the Jubao Pavilion and took out the Heavenly Dao contract from his spatial artifact. Today, the Jubao Pavilion is going to clean up the shameless people who have taken over our shop. Unrelated friends, please leave for now. His voice wasn't loud and he didn't shout, but everyone in the Jubao Pavilion heard him. What's going on? Someone is causing trouble in the Jubao Pavilion again? Many of the cultivators who were shopping in the Jubao Pavilion had heard about Night Sorrow causing trouble in the Jubao Pavilion back then. Who is causing trouble in the Jubao Pavilion? Do you want to die? Hearing Night Sorrow's voice, dozens of attendants in the Jubao Pavilion rushed into the hall. Most of these attendants were feather gods. After seeing Night Sorrow, they immediately transmitted their voices to the higher-ups of the Enying Hall. Some of them had witnessed Night Sorrow's battle with their own eyes, while others had seen Night Sorrow's battle scenes. They were very afraid of him. I'll give you a chance to leave immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. The Jubao Pavilion belongs to me, Night Sorrow. It's not something that anyone can occupy. Night Sorrow looked at these feather god attendants. Killing these feather gods would be as easy as crushing ants. However, that would only increase the number of people killed. He wouldn't do that. Who dares to speak so arrogantly? At this moment, the three ascendant gods that the Enying Hall had invited from the city lord's mansion all appeared. The one in front was an old man with white hair. He had the strength of a half-step divine lord. This kind of strength was completely overwhelming in High Bay City. Knight Sorrow's aura was very strong, but he was obviously only a feather god. He didn't take him seriously at all. I'll say one more thing. Jubao Pavilion is my, Knight Sorrow's, property. Unrelated people, leave immediately. Otherwise, don't blame the sword for being blind. Knight Sorrow didn't feel any pressure when facing three powerful high gods. Niu Patian and Yuan Shenro, who were beside him, were trembling in fear. To the two of them, the high god was an invincible existence that couldn't be resisted. The two of them were worried that Knight Sorrow wouldn't be able to wrap things up. The three high gods invited by the Enning Hall had the same thoughts as Niu Patian and Yuan Shenro. When they heard Knight Sorrow's words, they immediately laughed wildly. They did not take the feather gods seriously at all. One of the female cultivators with a sinister face said disdainfully, "Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue?" If they knew what was good for them, they would quickly kneel and beg for mercy. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll torture you less. Let's not waste our time talking to an ignorant ant. In my opinion, we should quickly capture him, pull out his tendons and pull out his bones before sending him to the ruler's manor. The male cultivator standing beside the female cultivator had the strength of a high god. He had a human body, but two wild boar-like fangs at the corners of his mouth. He looked very fierce. Since none of you want to leave, then stay. Facing the three high gods and dozens of feather god cultivators, Knight Sorrow directly used his divine domain to suppress them. He's a little strong. Don't be careless. Use your ultimate techniques. Knight Sorrow's divine domain was so powerful that the three high gods invited by the Enning Hall immediately felt that it was extraordinary. Although the three of them weren't suppressed by Knight Sorrow's divine domain like the feather god cultivators, they could clearly feel that their divine essence energy was not flowing smoothly. Knowing that Knight Sorrow was very strong and that he wasn't an ordinary feather god, they immediately used their strongest techniques. However, Knight Sorrow didn't even need to use his Samsara halberd, as he had activated his essence chi smoke and star's tyrant body. With a slap of his hand, he neutralized all three of their attacks and sent them flying with three palm strikes. The female cultivator and the male cultivator with the fangs were immediately smashed to pieces by Knight Sorrow's palm strikes. The half-step divine lord male cultivator, on the other hand, was quite strong. He was only slightly injured. Seeing his companion killed in an instant, the divine lord realm cultivator's expression immediately changed. His mission was to wait for Knight Sorrow in Seaside City. Now that he was here, but he wasn't strong enough, it made him feel very awkward. Divine talisman. Yes, there's still a divine talisman. The half-step divine lord cultivator's eyes lit up. He took out the divine lord talisman given to him by the ruler's manor. After activating it, he slapped at Knight Sorrow with a crazed expression. You may be strong, but you definitely won't be able to withstand a strike from a divine lord. Go to hell. Divine Essence Dragon Lock Formation. After all, it was a strike from a divine lord. Knight Sorrow didn't underestimate it. He used the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Formation to isolate the Divine Talisman. Boom! The Divine Talisman shattered the sealed space of the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Formation, but it only damaged some of Knight Sorrow's Divine Essence. After experiencing many battles, Knight Sorrow had mastered the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Formation to an extremely high level. Looks like you've run out of tricks. Knight Sorrow, who had easily blocked the Divine Talisman's attack, waved his hand and sent the half-step Divine Lord flying again. What kind of monster is this? Knight Sorrow was clearly only at the Feather God realm, but when he erupted, he was about the same as a Divine Lord. This made people feel very helpless. The half-step Divine Lord invited by the Enning Hall was in despair. Where is Feng Xiaoyun? Is he dead? Feng Xiaoyun had once made a heavenly Tao oath. If he betrayed Knight Sorrow and his family, his soul would be destroyed. He couldn't help but ask when he didn't see Feng Xiaoyun in the Jubao Pavilion today. Feng Xiaoyun, that traitor, actually betrayed the Enning Hall and the ruler's residence and secretly gave the Jubao Pavilion to you. He has already been sent back to the ruler's residence to be punished by Hall Master Ling Xiaoya. The half-step divine lord threatened Knight Sorrow after saying that. You're just a feather god. You've offended the ruler's residence. No one in the divine world can protect you. If you know what's good for you, kneel down and beg for mercy. I'll bring you to apologize to Lord Steward. You don't have to worry about these things for me. After getting the answer he wanted, Knight Sorrow didn't hesitate at all. He killed the half-step divine lord in front of him with a slap. He looked at the many feather gods present and said, "You don't deserve to die, but you can't escape punishment. To prevent you from helping the evildoer in the future, you'll be my servants from now on." After saying that, Knight Sorrow waved his hand and sent all the people who had given up resisting into his spatial artifact. Knight Sorrow didn't cripple these people because he hated Ling Yun's method of crippling people's cultivation. He was prepared to let them use their strength to atone for their sins in the future. Today, I, Knight Sorrow, make a vow here. No matter who it is, anyone who dares to rob the Jubao Pavilion will receive my thunderous retaliation in the future. This includes any power. It was definitely inappropriate for Niu Patian and Yuan Shenro to stay in the Jubao Pavilion. After that, Knight Sorrow brought them back to the courtyard after putting all the valuable items in the Jubao Pavilion into his spatial artifact. At this moment, the tea he had just drunk was still warm. Knight Sorrow, you're back. This time, Knight Sorrow came to the courtyard he had prepared for his friends. Chapter 25-36. Yes, I'm back, but I'll be leaving soon. I'm going to take you out of the Dark Moon's territory. Our destination is the Cloud Immortal Continent. Knight Sorrow knew that Jing Yun had nowhere else to go except for revenge. Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, Xian Jizi, and the others were the same. He was going to take them to the Cloud Immortal Continent to search for opportunities. After all, these people were the founding members of the God-slaying team. They would definitely experience battles in the future, so they needed to improve their strength as soon as possible. Cloud Immortal Continent? Is it the area where the 7 sects are? Hearing this name, Xian Jizi and the others didn't quite understand. Only Jing Yun's eyes lit up. That's where I'm going. I can improve my strength faster there. It's like this. Every single one of the 7 great sects of the Cloud Immortal Continent has a long history and a very deep foundation. Furthermore, they all have experts above the godly king level. If you can obtain their guidance, your strength will definitely increase rapidly. Now that this matter has been settled, I'm going to take you to do something else. Speaking of this, Knight Sorrow smiled and said, Shengguan Yun is under my control. I'm going to take you to his mansion to search for cultivation resources. Good. I like this kind of thing. Haha. Ho Lai was the first to laugh. He recalled the matter of emptying Feng Ling's cave in the Endless Bone region. Jing Yun also smiled, but she didn't think that a city master could accumulate much wealth. However, under Shengguan Yun's guidance, when they arrived at the city master's mansion, Jing Yun was immediately stunned by their harvest. Shengguan Yun was even wealthier than countless invincible divine emperors. There were 20 million divine gems in his mansion. This was a terrifying number. As for all kinds of elixirs, divine weapons, materials, and books, there were countless of them. Many of the things in the treasury were covered with dust, which proved that Shengguan Yun couldn't use them all. This guy is like a local tyrant. Defeating him alone is enough for all of us to cultivate to the next level. I really don't understand. He has a mountain of treasures, but why can't he break through to the divine emperor realm? Zhu Yunxia felt that the scene in front of her was like a dream. In just one night, these poor cultivators had become amazing people who no longer needed to worry about cultivation resources. Thank you, Captain. Yi Shan definitely wasn't a stingy person. Xian Jizi laughed mischievously as he knew that Yi Shan definitely wouldn't take all these resources for himself. Now that he had advanced to become an upper feather god, if he continued to follow Knight Sorrow, he would soon be able to break through to the high god realm. With these resources, I hope that everyone can increase their strength as soon as possible. Our opponent is the Dark Moon ruler's mansion. In other words, we'll definitely run into the ruler's forces one day. Knight Sorrow was also surprised to receive so many resources. However, he was thinking further into the future. He was already thinking about the high gods, the divine sovereign, the divine king, and the sovereign. He really wanted to build a strong home for everyone. After returning to the courtyard, Knight Sorrow had a hearty drink with his family and friends. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, he opened his mouth to express his apology to Sikong Chuyu and the others. This time, I had a great harvest in the Divine Lord's abode. Now, I need to enter the vast heaven pagoda to cultivate in seclusion. You guys take care of yourselves. No. Why didn't you rest for a few days after coming back? Why did you start cultivating again? Hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Yang Lei immediately said unhappily, 13, it's not that we don't understand you and don't want you to cultivate. We've been separated from you for so many years. We really want to spend more time with you. Otherwise, we won't be as close as before. That's right. Although cultivation is very important, completely ignoring your family is also not advisable. Sikong Chuyu felt that Yang Lei's words made sense. He also began to lecture Knight Sorrow. Aoi, Shueshi, Datura, and Lin Piaomiao all smiled. Clearly, this was something that they had discussed. Good. It's my fault. I neglected my family. Knight Sorrow could only apologize with a smile after being lectured by his wives, causing them to chuckle. In the following month, Knight Sorrow did not cultivate. During the day, he guided his clansmen in their cultivation and spent the night with his wives. Until one day, when his wives all blushed and expressed that they did not want him to accompany them anymore, Knight Sorrow entered the Clear Sky Pagoda to study the secret technique of the 33 heaven star souls that he had obtained in the Temple of the 33 Days. The secret technique of the 33 heaven star souls was very profound and could strengthen the soul. Using the secret technique of the 33 heaven star souls, Knight Sorrow quickly completed the Immortal Mantra's Feather God level. Using the large amount of resources he had, he began to cultivate the Feather God section of the Immortal Mantra. After spending 300 years in a space that was 100 times faster, Knight Sorrow successfully raised his cultivation and body level to the peak of the Feather God level. He successfully caught up to the level of his power of merit and soul power. Then, he walked out of the Clear Sky Pagoda and successfully defeated his reincarnation. He completely broke through to the peak of the Feather God level and became a truly invincible Feather God. Knight Sorrow believed that his strength was definitely at the peak of the Feather God level. He only needed to break through the bottleneck or accumulate a great amount of merit to break through to the high God level. However, Knight Sorrow was not satisfied with just this. Then, he squeezed out 2 more secret techniques from Shangguan Yun. One was called the Sky-Splitting Thousand Shadow Hands. This move was similar to the heaven-covering hand that Knight Sorrow had learned in the Medicine Valley. It was also a palm technique, but it was more powerful. The other was called the Void Extreme Shadow Body. This Void Extreme Shadow Body was more powerful than the Vanishing Shadow Void Escape. As for the secret technique to increase his strength, Knight Sorrow did not obtain it. When he fought with his life on the line, he still had to rely on the 7 stars rage. However, after being improved, the Vital Essence Smoke Beacon and Star's hegemonic body could be automatically used in battle and did not require energy. Knight Sorrow, why do I feel that the current you is stronger than an invincible high god like me? When Knight Sorrow finished cultivating and appeared in front of everyone except Jingyun felt that they could not breathe when facing him. That kind of powerful pressure made them feel very uncomfortable. I should be stronger than an ordinary lower divine lord now. As for how an invincible high god will fare in battle, I'm not sure. When Knight Sorrow had just left Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave, he had encountered a lower divine lord, Wen Gongming. At that time, he had used all his means to defeat him. If he encountered him again, the battle would be easily settled. Won't we be able to determine it after a battle? Although I don't know where I will be on the high god list, I will definitely be on it, Jingyun said with a smile. She was eager to give it a try. She was very confident in her bloodline. Okay, then let's compare notes. After that, Yi Shang and Jing Yun found a barren mountain with no one around and had a fight. After returning, when the crowd asked about the result, Jing Yun only said one word, freak. Everyone immediately understood that Night Sorrow had won this battle. They realized that Yi Shang had soared to the heavens after creating the immortal mantra. Jing Yun, in a few days, I will go to Langqi Mountain to look for Elder Zhuang He of the Dark Alliance. Now that you don't have to worry about the family, why don't you come with me and find an opportunity to take revenge? Now that his strength had increased, Night Sorrow felt that it was time to go to Langqi Mountain and find a way to rescue the suppressed cultivators. Then, he would leave the Dark Moon Dominator's territory and go to Yunxian continent. Okay, I'll go. Jing Yun's entire family had been destroyed. Needless to say, she hated the Shengguan family. A few days later, Night Sorrow and Jing Yun said goodbye to everyone and went on the road to Langqi Mountain. Their state of mind was very different from the last time. Chapter 25-37. The three major families of Mount Langqi were the Shengguan family, the Ling family, and the Murong family. Among them, the Shengguan family had a grudge against Night Sorrow and Jing Yun. The Ling family was the controller of the Shadow Pavilion. They were related to the Dark Moon ruler and had a conflict with Night Sorrow. As for the Murong family, they seemed to be more low-key. Night Sorrow and Jing Yun had not interacted with them. However, they were also heartless people and were not good people. This time, the two of them were prepared to give these families a big surprise. After arriving at Mount Langqi, Night Sorrow and Jing Yun went directly to the west side of the city to find the secret watchtower where Zhuang He was. When the two of them arrived outside the watchtower, Night Sorrow discovered that the defensive formation here last time was only used to prevent detection. This time, it was a god-level defensive formation. There might be some changes in the watchtower. Night Sorrow and the veiled Jing Yun both felt that the atmosphere outside the watchtower was a little strange. Night Sorrow's spiritual power was not only unique among the feather gods, but also very powerful among the high gods. Sensing the strange atmosphere, he immediately used his spiritual power to investigate the watchtower and its surroundings. The formation of the watchtower was very good. Even with the strength of Night Sorrow's spiritual power, it could not penetrate it. Within 10,000 miles of the watchtower, there were dozens of hidden sentries. Some of these sentries were disguised as peddlers, while others were like ordinary cultivators. They flew around the city in the sky and all of them used their spiritual power to lock on to the watchtower. The situation was as if a storm was about to come, and dark clouds were pressing down on the city. Let's go in. He did not care about these hidden sentries. He glanced at Jing Yun and flew with her to the watchtower. Who are you? The two of them stopped outside the watchtower. Immediately, a vigilant half-step high god walked out of the watchtower. We're here to find Elder Zhuang He. Night Sorrow transmitted his voice. This half-step high god's aura was very similar to Lin Mo's and Zhou Tsangxue's. He should also be from High Base City. Yi Shang directly mentioned Elder Zhuang He's name. He knew that the other party would know what was going on. Esteemed guest, please wait a moment, I will go and inform them. The half-immortal level cultivator immediately understood what Night Sorrow meant and returned to the Dark Tower to report the matter. Not long after, Zhuang He personally came out to welcome him. When he realized that it was Night Sorrow and Jing Yun, his expression turned grave. Come with me. Let's talk inside. Elder Zhuang He, did something happen? Night Sorrow asked as they walked towards the secret chamber. AI, you guys came at the wrong time. Our Dark Alliance's stronghold has been exposed. Now that it has been sealed, the three great clans will probably make their move soon. Zhuang He, who was walking in front, could not help but sigh in response. Elder Zhuang He, do you know what kind of people the three big families have sent? Upon hearing this, Night Sorrow felt that he had come at the right time. After all, with his strength, it was enough to deal with an ordinary Sir God. In addition, Jing Yun should be able to fight against weaker Sir Gods. AI, that's why it's worrying. This time, the three big families have sent one Sir God and 10 high gods. In addition, the city lord of West City, Shengguan Futu, is also a Sir God. We can't resist such a lineup. Zhuang He's expression turned ugly. We wanted to ask the alliance leader for help, but now that the outside has been completely sealed, we can't do it. Now that you guys are here, I'm afraid you will be implicated. Elder Zhuang He, you are being too polite. Don't worry, with Jing Yun and I here, the Dark Alliance will definitely survive this crisis. Knight Sorrow would like to thank you for what happened last time. Knight Sorrow cupped his hands at Zhuang He. He had obtained so many benefits in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave residence, so he really had to thank the Dark Alliance for providing him with the information. You are welcome. Tianyi has obtained many benefits, so the Dark Alliance should be the one thanking you, Zhuang He said politely. At this moment, the three of them arrived at the secret chamber. Zhuang He opened a stone door and Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun immediately saw Yun Tianyi, Lin Mo, Zhou Zhangxue, and the others. Brother Yi, why are you here? When he saw Knight Sorrow, Yun Tianyi, who had been sitting cross-legged on the ground, immediately stood up excitedly. His aura was very strong, much stronger than when he entered the locust tree forest. However, his face was a little pale, and it was obvious that he was injured. When they saw that it was Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun, Lin Mo, Zhou Zhangxue, and the others also stood up. Tianyi, did you break through to become a lower high god because you obtained an opportunity in the cave residence? Knight Sorrow could tell at a glance that Yun Tianyi was now a high god. Sigh, it's a long story. Let's talk in the courtyard. Yun Tianyi said. They came to the courtyard where Knight Sorrow had cultivated before and sat down at the stone table. He ordered someone to bring tea and snacks for Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun, then slowly talked about what happened in the cave residence and the origin of the current crisis in the secret chamber. It turned out that the trees in the locust tree forest did not attack the cultivators of High Base City. When Knight Sorrow and Yaoshi were trapped, Yun Tianyi was sent to another space and received some of the inheritance left behind by the immortal Lord Jinyuan. After cultivating for a few decades, Yun Tianyi sensed that the divine tribulation was coming, so he left the cave residence of the immortal Lord Jinyuan. As for the current crisis in the secret chamber, it was because Yun Tianyi had brought people to the ancient city of Langqi to rescue his father. After the rescue failed, they fled to the secret chamber, but they were discovered by the people of the three big families, so they were trapped there. Including Yun Tianyi and Zhuang He, there were a total of 5 high gods and 12 half-step high gods in the secret chamber. They were already very strong, but they were definitely no match for the people of the three big families. Everyone, don't worry. With me and Jing Yun here, the people of the three big families should not be a threat to everyone. Jing Yun had been very quiet. Knight Sorrow pointed at her and said, Jing Yun has the strength to enter the high gods list, but she has not challenged the cultivators on the list. She can fight against ordinary low gods. Hearing Knight Sorrow's words, everyone looked at Jing Yun. Jing Yun was a little embarrassed to be stared at like this. At this time, Lin Mo asked, Brother Yi, what is your strength now? I can't see through you at all. I can fight against high gods. Knight Sorrow replied casually and said, I think that instead of waiting here for the enemy to attack, we should take the initiative to attack and kill the high gods and high gods surrounding us. Then we can quickly go to the ancient city of Langqi to rescue the people. Can you really fight against high gods? Zhou Tianming, the high god sitting next to Yun Tianyi, asked doubtfully. Like Zhuang He, he was one of the 10 great elders of the secret chamber and also came from High Base City. He felt that if Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun could really fight against high gods, then this crisis might be averted. Brother Yi is the feather god of merit. He never lies. If he says he can, then he can't lie. Yun Tianyi understood Knight Sorrow and explained for him. Then she said with a wry smile, I thought that I could surpass Brother Yi after I became a high god. Now it seems that it was just wishful thinking. You are only a feather god now and you can fight against high gods. I can't imagine how strong you will be in the future. Let's not talk about this. Let's discuss the specific tactics and battle plan. Do you have a map of the ancient city of Langqi and the distribution of the key forces, especially the high gods in the city? Chapter 25-38. The ancient city of Langqi was the headquarters of the three families. It was where their power lay, and there might be some unexpected masters. After all, an immortal state cultivator had an endless lifespan. Some of them might appear when the family was in danger. Okay. Tsang Shui, get the map for Brother Yi. Yun Tianyi wasn't the most powerful person there, but he was obviously in a high position. When Knight Sorrow asked about the ancient city of Langqi, he immediately told him about it. There were at least 10 people above the Divine Lord level in the ancient city of Langqi. There must be more, but no one was sure about the specific situation. However, the three families didn't have a ruling position in the past, so their power shouldn't be too strong. At least, there shouldn't be a divine king. There's one more thing. Since the West City is the citadel of the ancient city of Langqi, there must be a teleportation array between them. We have to destroy it before we attack. Knight Sorrow said what he was worried about. The control of the West City must be in the hands of the three families. There must be a teleportation array in the city lord's mansion. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to fight back if the other party sent a few divine lords. It seems difficult. The defense arrays of the 4 citadels of the ancient city of Langqi are all at the Divine Lord level. We might not even be able to enter the city lord's mansion. Elder Zhuang, he said. He was more familiar with this than Yun Tianyi. A Divine Lord level defense array was already extraordinary. No one in the Dark Alliance could break it. A Divine Lord level defense array. That's a problem. Although Knight Sorrow felt that a Divine Lord level defense array wasn't invulnerable, he couldn't risk everyone's lives to test it. After thinking for a while, he said, "We can't attack in the city lord's mansion. Why don't we pretend to break out of the city and wait until the pursuers are alone and helpless? Then we can kill them all. What do you think?" That's a good idea. I agree. The High God Elder Zhou Tianming was the first to agree. At the moment, Knight Sorrow's idea was the best choice. Yun Tianyi and the others naturally did not object. After discussing, they decided to catch the other party off guard and set off immediately. When we run out of the city, I'll cover the rear. Jing Yun, don't use your full strength. After the preparations were complete, Knight Sorrow emphasized to Jing Yun. He was afraid that she would reveal too much strength and alert the enemy. All right, I'll control it. At that moment, although Jing Yun had a calm expression on her face, she was extremely excited. She had been fleeing for so long that she had lost count of how long it had been. Now that she was finally going to make a move against her enemy, she simply couldn't calm down. I know that waves are surging in your heart. This is a very normal thing. Pay attention to your safety when you fight. Sensing the restlessness in Jing Yun's heart, Knight Sorrow consoled her as he walked out of the secret pavilion. Don't worry, I will control my emotions. Jing Yun replied softly and didn't say anything else. Thinking of her family members that she would never see again, her gaze was incomparably firm. Is everyone ready? When they arrived at the entrance of the secret pavilion, Knight Sorrow turned around and looked at everyone. After getting an affirmative answer, he said, "Let's go. Everyone, pay attention to protect yourselves. I will do my best to take care of everyone. Tianyi is injured. Elder Zhuanghe, take care of him." All right. Knight Sorrow was very strong and had a charismatic personality. Under his arrangement, Elder Zhuanghe immediately agreed. Yun Tianyi, who was injured, was a little depressed. This matter started because of him, but now he needed Knight Sorrow to deal with it. He felt that he owed Knight Sorrow too much. Everyone, pay attention. Don't be separated. Let's go. With that last sentence, Knight Sorrow took the lead to walk out of the secret pavilion and flew into the air. Jing Yun and the cultivators of the Dark Alliance who followed behind him also came out immediately. They flew directly in the direction of the city gate. The remnants of Hai Bay City want to escape. Quickly informs City Lord Shangguan and Lord Murong Shao. Seeing the people of the secret pavilion walk out in a line and fly in the direction of the city gate, many sentries immediately reported. Some people used escape techniques to chase after them. Among the cultivators who chased after them, there were 3 or 4 exalted gods. They noticed that the Dark Alliance's exalted gods weren't good, so they didn't try to stop them. They kept 10,000 miles behind them, clearly thinking that it was enough to just follow them. Let them follow. We can lure the other 2 monarchs here. Is there a suitable area nearby for setting up an array? After killing the guards at the city gate and rushing out of the west side of the city, Knight Sorrow immediately asked. There's a desolate valley 200,000 miles ahead. We can set up an array in the valley. When the time comes, we just need to guard the entrance of the valley. We won't be attacked from all sides. Zhuang He, who was the most familiar with the area, pointed into the distance. All right, let's go to the valley and set up a defensive array. With the help of the array, our chances of winning will be much higher. Knight Sorrow had the array diagram that Long Tianqing gave him. It could be used to set up an exalted god and monarch god defensive array. Currently, Knight Sorrow didn't have any monarch god materials on him. However, after raiding Hai Bay City Lord Shangguan Yun's residence, he obtained a large amount of exalted god materials. When he reached the valley, he carefully set up the array. Soon, he finished setting up the exalted god defensive array. On the other side, Shangguan Futu and Murong Shao were catching up very quickly. As soon as Knight Sorrow set up the array, the 2 of them led 20 exalted gods and chased after him. The other side has an obvious advantage in terms of exalted gods. However, with the array, if they rush in, their strength will be weakened to a certain extent. As for the monarchs, Jing Yun and I will take 1 each. Knight Sorrow, who was sizing up Shangguan Futu and Murong Shao, pointed at Murong Shao and said to Jing Yun, that one has a weaker aura. I'll leave him to you. I'll deal with the other one. No, I'll deal with Shangguan Futu. Jing Yun asked Zhuang He about Shangguan Futu and Murong Zhao's identities. When she heard these 2 names, she immediately chose to fight with Shangguan Futu. Alright, be careful. When you fight, don't let hatred get to your head. Knight Sorrow naturally understood why she would make such a choice. During the time you were away, I've been cultivating. My strength has increased a lot. When I fought with you a few days ago, I didn't use my strongest bloodline attack. I'm confident that I can defeat him, Jing Yun said confidently. At this time, Murong Shao floated outside the valley and shouted arrogantly, You Hai Bay City survivors, do you think that hiding in the valley and setting up a lousy array can affect the battle? They had 2 lower immortal lords and 20 exalted gods on their side. However, there was not a single immortal lord in the valley. In terms of cultivation, the difference was simply too great. Murong Shao and Shangguan Futu did not take the people present seriously. You're Murong Shao. Yun Tianyi, who was injured, could not fight, but her mouth was not idle. She provoked, this valley is called Owl Burial Valley. Do you know? You will die here today. You're courting death. Kill all the Hai Bay City survivors in this valley. Chapter 2539. Yun Tianyi, don't think that I won't dare to kill you just because you have the protection of your sect. There weren't many lists in the realm of the gods. Yun Tianyi had appeared on the list of feather gods and was quite famous in the Dark Moon Dominators area. Murong Shao obviously knew him. After being mocked, he immediately rushed over. After entering the array, Murong Zhao's speed was slightly affected, but his hammer was still very powerful. Brother Yi, save me. The injured Yun Tianyi was targeted by the hammer and immediately stood behind Knight Sorrow. Seeking the protection of a feather god? You've wasted your life as a high god. Murong Shao looked at Knight Sorrow with disdain. As a high god, he felt that the feather gods were ants. Soon you will know that you've wasted your life as a high god. Facing Murong Zhao's hammer, Knight Sorrow held the Samsara halberd in his hand and casually struck. Now he was fighting with his essence Smoke and Star's mighty body. Even if he didn't use the spear technique, he was still very powerful. He wanted to see how his strength compared to a high god's. Brother Knight Sorrow, don't be arrogant. A high god is not that easy to deal with. Elder Zhou Tianming, a high-level high celestial, shouted worriedly when he saw that Yi Shang had actually resisted Murong Zhao's attack head-on. He felt that Yi Shang's response was too arrogant. Boom! As soon as Zhou Tianming finished speaking, Murong Zhao was sent flying by Knight Sorrow's attack. What? Murong Zhao was shocked as he was sent flying. He didn't expect that he would be sent flying by a feather god. Everyone else present was dumbfounded. Zhou Tianming, who felt that Knight Sorrow was a little arrogant, immediately shouted excitedly, "Brother Knight Sorrow, you're really a god. I admire you. Everyone, follow me into battle." In an instant, the Dark Alliance's morale was boosted. "Brother Murong, you can't underestimate this feather god. Let me help you kill him." Sword of tumbling clouds and overturning water. The power that Knight Sorrow had just displayed made Shangguan Futu extremely fearful. He had lived for a few reincarnations and had never heard of such a feather god in the divine realm. He immediately used the long sword in his hand to stab at Knight Sorrow. His choice was different from Murong Zhao's. He used the sword art. "Shangguan Futu, your opponent is me." At this time, Jing Yun, who had been suppressing her aura, suddenly erupted. Her green phoenix battle armor immediately blossomed with scorching flames, blocking Shangguan Futu. You're a descendant of the Jing clan." Seeing Jing Yun's appearance clearly, Shangguan Futu was clearly somewhat surprised. Then, he laughed and said, "I didn't expect all kinds of monsters to come out today. It was right for you to laugh more when you were alive." Jing Yun's personality was very gentle, but she wasn't gentle at all in battle. After replying, she activated the power of her bloodline and transformed into a true phoenix. She soared into the sky and spat out phoenix flames at Shangguan Futu. What a pure phoenix bloodline! Facing Jing Yun, who had transformed into a true phoenix, Shangguan Futu immediately put away his contempt and fought back. He noticed that Jing Yun wasn't very passive when facing Shangguan Futu. While Knight Sorrow was fighting with Murong Zhao, he was controlling the array to disturb the 20 superior gods. After being disturbed by the array, the strength of the 20 superior gods decreased significantly. This greatly reduced the pressure on the members of the Dark Alliance. "Bastard, how dare you be distracted when fighting with me?" Murong Zhao, who had suffered a loss at the hands of Knight Sorrow, noticed that Knight Sorrow had the spare energy to help others while fighting with him. He was immediately fuming with anger, feeling that he, a superior god, had been greatly insulted. He immediately used his unique skill, the Destroyer Hammer. Void Extreme Shadow Body. In the face of Murong Zhao's almost destructive attack, Knight Sorrow didn't choose to take it head-on. This wasn't because he was afraid, but because he wanted to try out a new movement skill and a new unique skill. Thousand Sky-Splitting Shadow Hands. After using the Void Extreme Shadow Body to dodge Knight Sorrow's attack, Murong Zhao immediately used the Thousand Sky-Splitting Shadow Hands that he had just mastered. His palms, which were glowing with golden light, immediately attacked Murong Zhao thousands of times. None of the thousands of palm prints were illusory. All of them were real. Blood Barbarian Robe, protect the owner. Facing Knight Sorrow's Thousand Sky-Splitting Shadow Hands, Murong Zhao, who had missed his first strike, didn't dare to be careless. While using the Superior God defensive robe to protect himself, he used the War Hammer to attack again. Pa. Murong Zhao had obviously underestimated Knight Sorrow and the Thousand Sky-Splitting Shadow Hands. His chest was hit by 2 palms consecutively. Knight Sorrow's body was so strong that it immediately shattered Murong Zhao's sternum. "Brother Murong, how do you feel?" Shangguan Futu, who was fighting with Jing Yun, immediately asked after seeing that Murong Zhao was badly injured. If Murong Zhao couldn't take it anymore, he would definitely escape immediately. This was because Jing Yun was very difficult to deal with. Although her divine core power and divine soul power weren't as strong as his, her real phoenix bloodline was quite terrifying. This feather god is ridiculously strong, but I still have the strength to fight. Murong Xiao got up and took an elixir. His bones began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. This time, when he looked at Night Sorrow again, he took it seriously. He had already forgotten that Night Sorrow's cultivation was at the feather god realm. However, although Murong Xiao took it seriously, his current strength was still inferior to Night Sorrow's. Soon, he was completely suppressed. It was only a matter of time before he was defeated. This little bastard at the Feather God realm is using my nephew Sheng Guanyun's unique skill. It seems that my nephew has already been killed by him. Damn it. Sheng Guanfutu noticed Night Sorrow's body movement and unique skill, so he transmitted his voice to Murong Xiao angrily. This kid is very strange. Although he's at the Feather God realm, he's definitely stronger than me. How about you? As the battle progressed, Murong Xiao, who was getting more and more tired, couldn't help but have the intention to retreat. He's also not easy to deal with. Sheng Guanfutu's condition was slightly better than Murong Xiao's, but the situation was not optimistic. As soon as his doppelganger responded, Jing Yun, who was carrying the flaming Huang Lingyu, suddenly shot over. Sheng Guanfutu couldn't dodge in time and was hit 5 or 6 times. His robe was also burning. These two cultivators are too strange. Let's go. Murong Xiao was completely passive. Now that he was injured, Sheng Guanfutu immediately transmitted his voice. He wanted to escape with Murong Xiao. Okay. Where there's life, there's hope. Murong Xiao, who had already lost the will to fight, naturally agreed with Sheng Guanfutu. He immediately used the conveyance light and prepared to escape. Want to escape? You can't escape. When Murong Xiao escaped, Sheng Guanfutu also moved. He gave up fighting with Jing Yun and flew toward the entrance of the valley. Night Sorrow, who saw them trying to escape, shouted at this time. He used the Divine Origin dragon-locking formation on Sheng Guanfutu and bound him in midair. He himself used the 7-star Violent Alcade to increase his strength. After that, he used the Void Extreme Shadow Body to chase after Murong Xiao. Phoenix Cry 9th Heaven. Sheng Guanfutu was sealed in a small enclosed space by Night Sorrow. Chapter 2540. Sheng Guanfutu, who was unable to break through the imprisonment of the Divine Origin Dragon Lock spell, was immediately pierced by the Fire Phoenix. As the sealed space collapsed, Sheng Guanfutu's broken body fell from the sky. With his dantian broken, his soul broke out of his body in an attempt to escape. At this moment, Jing Yun turned back into her human form. She reached out and crushed his body. In the west city of Lingqi Mountain, the high and mighty castellan Sheng Guanfutu was completely destroyed. The first one. Jing Yun, who killed Sheng Guanfutu, had a murderous look on her face. She told herself that this was the first step of her revenge. There were many more people to kill in the future. Where are you going? Sheng Guanfutu's Divine Origin Dragon Lock spell had been broken. Night Sorrow, who was chasing Murong Xiao, immediately used it on him. Break it. In the process of escaping, Murong Xiao saw that Night Sorrow and Jing Yun worked together to kill Sheng Guanfutu. Now that Night Sorrow had just used the Divine Origin Dragon Lock spell, Murong Xiao, who was already prepared, immediately threw out a divine talisman made by a middle-level divine lord and successfully destroyed the sealed space of the Divine Origin Dragon Lock spell. Samsara Strike. Night Sorrow, who did not expect Murong Xiao to break the spell so quickly, used the Samsara Strike at this moment. Murong Xiao, who was not in the mood to continue fighting, would not receive this attack after breaking the spell. He immediately used his movement technique and fled toward the West City. His goal was to escape into the City Lord's mansion and use the teleportation formation to leave. In the process of escaping, Murong Xiao burned his blood essence and was extremely fast. Do you think you can escape like this? 7 Stars Rage. In an instant, Murong Xiao had escaped tens of thousands of miles away. Night Sorrow immediately used the 7 stars rage to increase his strength. After that, he used the void extreme shadow body and chased after Murong Xiao. Damn it. He's just a feather god. Not only is he powerful, but he's also fast. Murong Xiao, who was escaping, cursed silently as he paid attention to Night Sorrow behind him. He had never heard of such a powerful feather god in the realm of the gods. The strength of his body, Yuan Qi, divine soul, and speed were all at the level of a divine lord. Jing Yun, I can deal with Murong Xiao myself. You go back and help them. Night Sorrow immediately sent a telepathic message to Jing Yun, asking her to help the Dark Alliance. Although they were in the middle of the formation and had a natural advantage, the Dark Alliance had too few high gods and were completely suppressed. Fortunately, no one from the Dark Alliance was killed even though a few of them were injured. When the invincible high god Jing Yun arrived, the situation was immediately reversed. The 20 high gods from the 3 clans were all killed. Invincible exalted gods were basically equivalent to immortal lords. Ordinary exalted gods like them were no match for them. At this moment, Night Sorrow, who had performed the 7-star rampage, had already intercepted Murong Xiao at the edge of the valley. This position had already left Night Sorrow's formation. Murong Xiao's strength had recovered a little, but he was still at a disadvantage. He was suppressed to the point that he could not fight back. If you swear an oath to the heavenly Tao and pledge your loyalty to me, I will let you live. Otherwise, you will end up like Shangguan Futu. Night Sorrow, who was suppressing Murong Xiao, used the divine vitality dragon-locking formation to imprison him after taking control of the situation. He was not afraid that Murong Xiao would use the transmission stone. Their next stop was the ancient city of Langqi to rescue the suppressed high base city cultivators. However, no one, including Yuntiani, knew the specific situation in the ancient city of Langqi. If they could control Murong Xiao, it would be beneficial for their operation. Junior, what kind of person do you take me, Murong Xiao? Even if I die, I will not turn around and help you fight against my clan. Facing Night Sorrow's threat, Murong Xiao still had some backbone. Do it. The Murong clan will avenge me. Jing Yun and I are targeting the Shangguan clan and the Ling clan. It has nothing to do with the Murong clan. It has something to do with saving the suppressed cultivators, but it has no effect on the Murong clan. I will give you 3 breaths to consider. Night Sorrow did not have a life and death feud with the Murong clan, so he persuaded Murong Xiao to surrender. If Murong Xiao could surrender, the difficulty of their operation in the ancient city of Langqi would be reduced by at least 70%. This was why he was wasting his breath. I can consider not attacking the Murong clan. But I, Murong Xiao, can't surrender to anyone forever. Murong Xiao was trapped in the divine vitality dragon-locking formation. He knew that he would die if he refused, so he began to bargain. It was not easy to cultivate to the monarch god realm. He did not want to be completely annihilated like Shangguan Futu. I am stronger than you. It is not useful for you to surrender. You only need to cooperate with me to save the suppressed cultivators in High Bay City, and I will let you go. Night Sorrow's sharp eyes fell on Murong Xiao. This is too shameful. But Shangguan Futu is stronger. Murong Xiao's eyebrows twisted. He felt that as a monarch god, it was too embarrassing to surrender to a feather god. But he felt that his life was more important than his face. He thought for a moment and said, if you can't save those cultivators, I will have to help you forever. How about this? If I help you save them, I will be free immediately. If I can't, I will fight with you for 10,000 years. After 10,000 years, you will let me go. 10,000 years was just a blink of an eye for an old monster like Murong Xiao who had lived for several reincarnations. He felt that 10,000 years was too short. Okay, 10,000 years it is. You can make a heavenly oath. Hearing this, Night Sorrow felt that 10,000 years was not short. He nodded and agreed. After 10,000 years, he might be able to reach a higher level. A monarch god like Murong Shao might not be useful anymore. He would be a burden to him. I, Murong Shao, swear that I will serve Night Sorrow from today onwards. Murong Shao, who was released from the Divine Vitality Dragon-locking formation, did not hesitate and immediately made a heavenly oath. With the restriction of the heavenly oath, he did not dare to act rashly. Otherwise, he would be devoured by the heavenly Tao. Let's go back to the valley with me. After successfully subduing Murong Shao, Night Sorrow immediately flew back to the valley with him. When the two of them arrived at the valley, Jing Yun had already killed all 20 great gods from the 3 big clans. Jing Yun, who was originally as gentle as water, was now filled with murderous intent. Night Sorrow comforted her, although you have a family feud, you still need to calm down. Otherwise, your state of mind will be broken and you will turn into a demon. Okay, I understand. Hearing Night Sorrow's safety, Jing Yun smiled. The murderous intent and hostility on her body dissipated instantly. She no longer gave off a fierce feeling. Seeing Night Sorrow bring Murong Shao back, she asked curiously, what happened to him? I convinced him to cooperate with us to save the people in Langqi Ancient City. Night Sorrow glanced at the members of the Dark Alliance and made sure that no one was killed. He said, since no one is in danger, let's quickly recover. Also, speed is the most important thing in war. We need to discuss countermeasures immediately and march into Langqi Ancient City. Okay, with Murong Zhao's help, our journey will be smoother. After knowing that it was Night Sorrow who had subdued Murong Shao, the members of the Dark Alliance were full of admiration from the bottom of their hearts. However, saving the people was more important now. It was not the time to be polite. Zhuang He and Zhou Tianming, who had something to say, did not speak. They were all thinking of countermeasures. I have an idea. Listen to it and see if it is feasible. Chapter 2541. Just tell me your idea. If it's feasible, I'll accept it. Night Sorrow knew that Murong Shao wanted to complete the mission quickly and regain his freedom, so he gave him a chance to speak. This time, my mission is to capture you and suppress you in the dungeon of the God-suppressing pagoda. Why don't you guys pretend to be my subordinates and the other half pretend to be the targets? I'll bring you to the God-suppressing pagoda, and then everyone will launch a sneak attack to save you. Murong Shao continued, I, Shangguan Jianyan of the Shangguan clan, and Ling Tianzhua of the Ling clan will take turns guarding the God Suppression Pagoda. Murong Shao looked at Night Sorrow and then at Jing Yun. He said, when something happened to the God Suppressing Pagoda, I came out to hunt them down, and the two of them are in charge of guarding it. If the three of us take action, we can quickly finish them off. After we finish them off and save the people, as long as we're fast enough, we can definitely leave Langqi Ancient City before the gods of the 3 big families arrive. This is indeed the best choice. I think it's feasible. Zhuang He stroked his beard and nodded. He thought it was a good choice, much better than the last time. Zhou Tianming also agreed. It's a good idea. It will definitely be easier to succeed than the last mission. He had participated in the last rescue mission, so he knew the location of the God-suppressing pagoda. It was heavily guarded. This is a good idea. At this time, Night Sorrow shook his head and said, but I think there's a better way. I'll put everyone into the spatial artifact and sneak into the God-suppressing pagoda with Murong Shao. Then I'll release everyone and launch a surprise attack. After the rescue, I'll put everyone into the spatial artifact. Then, I'll be the only one to test when escaping. There was one more thing that Night Sorrow didn't say. In fact, the best way was for everyone to enter Murong Zhao's spatial artifact. It would definitely be a smooth journey, but he didn't want to entrust his life to others. Good. That's the best way. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yun Tianyi immediately praised him. The fewer people there were, the smaller the target. She felt that Night Sorrow's words were reasonable. That's it then. There's no time to lose. Let's get started. Jing Yun nodded. Following that, everyone entered Night Sorrow's vast heaven pagoda one after another. Let's go. Explain to me about the divine lords of Lungchi ancient city on the way. Knight Sorrow used the teleportation crystal to set up a teleportation formation in the valley and said to Murong Xiao. Divine Monarch's words. The Murong family, including me, has a total of 5. The Shangguan family was the number 1 family in Lungchi ancient city. Even though Shangguan Futu had been killed, they still had more Sir gods than the Murong family. They still had 7. As for the Ling family, they were very close to the sovereign's residence, so it was hard to say how many godly monarchs they had. There are also 5 of them who show up frequently. Restricted by the heavenly oath, Murong Xiao had to tell the truth. Knight Sorrow, who had a preliminary understanding of the situation, continued to ask during the flight, the divine lord you mentioned, I'm afraid it's only on the surface, right? How strong were the foundations of the various clans? Is there an invincible divine monarch or divine king? To be honest, I really don't know if the 3 families have the invincible divine emperor and the divine king. Murong Xiao responded to Knight Sorrow's question with a wry smile. Then he said, but I think that the clans won't use their foundations to deal with a feather god. You don't have to worry about this at all. Well, that makes sense. Knight Sorrow nodded and asked Murong Xiao to explain the situation in Lungchi ancient city in general. The god-suppressing pagoda was in the middle of Lungchi ancient city. The 3 families were guarding the 3 directions of the god-suppressing pagoda, almost in a form of encirclement. The god-suppressing pagoda itself didn't have much defense. It had a total of 6 floors, one of which was underground. Most of the suppressed cultivators in High Base City were imprisoned there. A small number of them were imprisoned in the 3 families. The dungeon of the god-suppressing pagoda was used to imprison cultivators. The other 5 floors were the training grounds for the cultivators of Lungchi Mountain. Every time they passed a floor, they would be rewarded by the god-suppressing pagoda. It seems that the god-suppressing pagoda is not that simple. After listening to Murong Xiao's description, Knight Sorrow knew that it was similar to the sky-reaching bone pagoda. But this time, he was here to save someone, so he wasn't in the mood to break through the pagoda. We're here. The city floating on the top of the mountain ahead is the ancient city of Lungchi. When they were 100,000 miles away, Murong Xiao pointed to the huge city on the horizon. This huge city was at least 10 times larger than the Acropolis like West City. It floated above the layers of white clouds on the top of the mountain, looking very vast and immortal. Wait a moment, I'll set up another teleportation formation. Knight Sorrow had obtained a lot of resources from Shangguan Yun's mansion. There were dozens of teleportation crystals, so he didn't feel bad about using them at all. After setting up the teleportation formation, he looked at Murong Xiao and said, if we encounter people from the Murong family, you'd better persuade them to retreat. There's no blood feud between us, so it's best not to have a conflict. Well, if we encounter them, I'll try to persuade them. Murong Xiao sighed. He was the backbone of the Murong family and was extremely powerful. He was the key person guarding the god-suppressing pagoda, but now he had to embezzle what he was guarding. Let's go, you lead the way. If we encounter an interrogation, you should know how to deal with it. The 2 flew to the gate of Lungchi ancient city. Knight Sorrow sent a message to Murong Xiao, asking him to lead the way. Under Murong Xiao's lead, Knight Sorrow naturally sneaked into Lungchi ancient city and flew to the god-suppressing pagoda with him. On their way to the god-suppressing pagoda, the Shangguan family was in a mess because the family master, Shangguan Fusheng, found that the divine soul lamp of his brother, Shangguan Futu, had been extinguished. This proved that Shangguan Futu, the governor of West City, had lost his divine soul. Futu has been killed. Second elder, third elder, fourth elder, please go to West City and investigate. Shangguan Fusheng summoned the other 6 divine emperors in the family to the meeting hall and immediately announced that Shangguan Futu had been killed. What? Futu has been killed? Who dares to attack the Shangguan family? Second elder Shangguan Bao's face darkened when he heard that Shangguan Futu had been killed. He was not only Shangguan Futu's elder, but also his master. When he heard the news of his death, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. It's not clear yet. The heavenly mystery has been deceived, and it can't be divined. Family Master Shangguan Fuxing explained and continued, as for the other elders, follow me to the God-suppressing pagoda. A few days ago, there was a prison break in the God-suppressing pagoda. Futu and Murong Xiao chased out of the city and then died. Family Master, if it's found out that Murong Xiao did it, we will report it to the Divine King, or Great Elder Shangguan Ku, who had been silent, made a throat-slitting gesture. The Divine King won't care about these fights. If it's really someone from the Murong family who killed Futu, I will bury the entire Murong family with him. Elders, please follow me. Shangguan Fuxing was very angry that his brother had been killed. He rushed to the God-suppressing pagoda with Great Elder and Sixth Elder. Chapter 25-42. If you see Murong Xiao, you must stop him at all costs. On the way to the God-suppressing pagoda, Shangguan Fuxing contacted Shangguan Jianyan with a voice transmission stone. Murong Xiao. He just brought a feather god into the dungeon. Shangguan Jianyan responded immediately after receiving the voice transmission. Just now, when Murong Xiao appeared with Yishang, he even went up to greet them and asked about the situation of the escapees. After all, they had been partners for many years. He did not suspect Murong Xiao at all. Hearing Shangguan Jinyan's telepathic message, Shangguan Fuxing immediately said, "Calm him down and wait for me to arrive." Shangguan Futu and Murong Xiao were killed when they were traveling together. Murong Xiao appeared in the God-suppressing pagoda without greeting the Shangguan family. He felt that there must be something wrong. Jianyan will follow your orders. I will go and hold him down immediately. Shangguan Jianyan immediately rushed to the dungeon after receiving the order. Shangguan Fuxing reminded him, Futu probably died at the hands of Murong Xiao. You are not his opponent. Don't act rashly. Just guard the entrance of the dungeon. What? Such a thing happened? Shangguan Jianyan was shocked to hear this. Although the three families had conflicts, it was all under the Divine Lord realm. He called Ling Tianzhua and a large number of high gods and feather gods. After activating the defensive array around the God-suppressing pagoda, he waited outside the dungeon with them. He did not send a voice transmission to the high gods inside for fear of alerting them. He waited patiently for the arrival of the Shangguan family leader. At present, there are a total of 121 feather gods and 42 high gods in the dungeon. There are 3 divine lords, but they are not here. They are suppressed in the Shangguan family, the Murong family, and the Ling family. Murong Xiao immediately introduced the situation in the dungeon. He was one of the 3 people in charge of the dungeon and was very familiar with the place. Why don't the 3 families kill these people instead of suppressing them? Night Sorrow went down to the dark and damp dungeon and saw 10 passageways. In each passageway, there were 20 cells. Each of these passageways was guarded by a high god. Seeing Murong Xiao's arrival, the 10 high gods all came out of their rooms to pay their respects. Not killing them was the Divine King's idea, but I don't know the specifics. In addition, the cell door was made of a very special material. Even a Divine Lord would not be able to break it open with brute force. The key is with these 10 people. Murong Xiao, who was greeting the 10 high gods, secretly sent a message to Night Sorrow. Then what are you waiting for? Attack. Speed was crucial in war. Night Sorrow didn't stop at all and used the Divine Essence Dragon Lock formation to imprison the high gods standing together. Die. Murong Xiao had no qualms about attacking these high gods. The 10 bound high gods were killed one after another before they could even react. As for the key to the cell, it was made of a special material and was not damaged by Murong Xiao's attack. Everyone, hurry up and save them. After killing the 10 high gods and obtaining the keys, Night Sorrow released Jing Yun and the others so that they could work together to rescue the high gods. Now is not the time to be emotional. Save them and come back to me immediately. After we leave this place, we can talk about old times. After saving the high gods, some of them were emotional and spoke while crying. It was a waste of time. Night Sorrow immediately reminded them and started to set up a teleportation formation. This was already the 5th teleportation formation he had set up. There was one in the valley and one outside Langqi city. Just now, he had set up 2 more in the city. One was near the god-suppressing pagoda and the other was further away, very close to the city gate. Yes, let's leave this place first. Saving the people in the dungeon was only the first step. There were still serious difficulties to be overcome. Zhuang He also spoke. Under the urging of the Dark Alliance cultivators, who were saving the people, moved faster. The suppressed cultivators were very talented, but after being imprisoned for so many years, each of them was very weak. Most of them were carried out, 119 feather gods and 41 high gods. The other 2 feather gods and 1 high god have died in the dungeon. After saving all the cultivators in the dungeon, the Dark Alliance elder Zhou Tianming and Night Sorrow said, "There is no problem with the number. Everyone enter my spatial artifact and I will take you out." The number of cultivators was the same as what Murong Xiao said. Night Sorrow kept all the cultivators, including Jing Yun, in the clear sky pagoda. He looked at Murong Xiao and said, "Let's go to the teleportation formation. If things can be solved smoothly, I can let you go immediately." "Okay, let's go." Murong Xiao's eyes shone. He did not expect Night Sorrow to be so easy to talk to. The teleportation formation seems to be unusable. Standing on the teleportation formation, Night Sorrow tried and found that it could not be used in the god-suppressing pagoda. He made a prompt decision and said, "Let's go, let's rush out." The other teleportation formation is only 30,000 miles away from the god-suppressing pagoda. We can definitely teleport there. Okay, that's the only way. Murong Xiao had no choice but to take the lead and walk out of the god-suppressing pagoda. Not good. Walking out of the god-suppressing pagoda, Night Sorrow immediately saw Shangguan Jianyan, Ling Tianzhua, and dozens of high gods and thousands of feather gods guarding outside. Formation. Shangguan Jianyan, who had already activated the defensive formation around the god-suppressing pagoda, saw Murong Xiao and Night Sorrow appear and immediately ordered the high gods and feather gods present to form the formation. Many of the cultivators present were from the Murong family. When they saw that the person who came out was Murong Xiao, they naturally did not move. The Shangguan family and Ling family, however, began to form the formation. Shangguan Jianyan, what is the meaning of this? Murong Xiao, who realized that something was wrong, pretended to be fine and asked, "Who is this outsider?" Shangguan Jianyan pointed at Night Sorrow and questioned. At this time, he was still enduring and did not choose to make a move. "Do it. The matter is definitely exposed. If we don't leave now, I'm afraid it will be too late." Murong Xiao wanted to say something, but Night Sorrow transmitted a message to him and summoned Jing Yun at the same time. 7-star Rage. Divine Origin Dragon-locking Formation. Night Sorrow saw from Shangguan Jinyan's eyes that they had been exposed. Without hesitation, he used the light-shaking formation and the Divine Origin Dragon-locking Formation to imprison Shangguan Jinyan. Then, he used the Reincarnation Strike. Shangguan Jianyan did not have time to react at this time and was hit by the Reincarnation Strike. His strength, which was originally a lower Divine Emperor, dropped another level. 9 Heavens Phoenix Cry. At this time, Jing Yun, who came out of the clear sky pagoda, also used her strongest move. Sigh. Faced with this situation, Murong Xiao had no choice but to summon his twin hammers and smash at Shangguan Jianyan. Shangguan Jianyan was the weakest divine emperor in the Shangguan family. He was attacked by 3 people and did not even have the chance to fight back. He was killed instantly. Murong Xiao, did you betray us or did the Murong family betray the divine king? Ling Tianzhua, who had seen Murong Xiao kill Shangguan Jianyan, retreated outside the defensive formation when Night Sorrow and the others attacked. This has nothing to do with you. Open the defensive formation and let us go. Chapter 2543. Murong Xiao, do you know what you're doing? Kidnapping the cultivators of Hai Bei City, killing Shengguan Jianyan, everything will consign you to eternal damnation. Even your family will be implicated. Murong Xiao came out of the dungeon and killed Shengguan Jianyan with Night Sorrow and Jing Yun. Ling Tianzhua, who was also in charge of guarding the god-suppressing pagoda, naturally guessed that they had already kidnapped the cultivators of Hai Bei City. Facing Ling Tianzhua's questioning, Murong Xiao sneered and said, I'd rather betray the world than let the world betray me. If I, Murong Xiao, lose my life, no matter how strong my family is, what's the use? Then, he looked at Ling Tianzhua and said, Ling Tianzhua, you've worked with me for many years, you should know my character. Let me out, I won't attack you. You'd better wait in the array for everyone to arrive. I've already informed the 3 big families about your attack on Shengguan Jianyan. At this time, the head of the Shengguan family will be here soon. If Murong Xiao and the others were released, when Shengguan Fusheng arrived, Ling Tianzhua would definitely be in trouble. Naturally, he would not close the defensive array. What? Shengguan Fusheng will be here soon? That's not right. It shouldn't be so fast. We're finished. Shengguan Fusheng is a high-level divine lord, he's definitely not someone we can fight against. Hearing this, Murong Xiao's heart immediately turned cold. According to Murong Xiao's calculations, they would not be trapped by the defensive array if they immediately left the god-suppressing pagoda after rescuing the cultivators of Hai Bei City. Now, not only was the defensive array activated, but Shengguan Fusheng was also on his way. This was all unexpected. Why are you panicking? There's still a chance. I'll think of a way to break the array. At this time, Night Sorrow was calm. He knew that everything had its risks, so he did not blame Murong Xiao for not thinking it through. Instead, he opened the eye of the sea serpent and carefully observed the monarch-level defensive array in front of him. This array was worse than the one Long Tianqing had set up for his family, both in terms of defensive power and layout skills. However, he did not have the array diagram, so he needed time to study it. Hurry up, we must break the array quickly. Murong Xiao was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. He had killed a member of the Shengguan family. If he was stopped by Shengguan Fusheng, the consequences would be unimaginable. Right now, his face was almost the color of pig liver. Don't argue, he will definitely do it. Jing Yun, who was standing quietly at the side, saw that Murong Xiao was a little noisy and immediately scolded him. She was afraid that he would affect Night Sorrow's state of mind. Ling Tianzhua, who was outside the defensive array, heard the conversation between Night Sorrow and Murong Xiao and immediately laughed. Haha, I didn't hear wrong, did I? A feather god wants to break this Sir God-level defensive array? Should I say that you're overestimating yourself or overestimating yourself? In the face of his mockery, Murong Xiao also laughed. He snorted coldly and said, since the feather god can kill a monarch god, why can't he break a monarch god-level array? I'm afraid you've forgotten that this is the defensive array that the Wuxin Divine King set up before he became a Divine King. I don't know if you're looking down on the Wuxin Divine King or overestimating this feather god. So what if he's the Wuxin Divine King? The array he set up is just a so-so. At this moment, Night Sorrow moved and began to try to break the array. The array patterns of this array were somewhat similar to some of the array patterns in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave abode. He used the eye of the sea serpent to study it and figured out what was going on. After he made his move, a corner of the array set up by the Wuxin Divine King was quickly broken. The array is broken, let's go. After breaking a corner of the array, Night Sorrow immediately said to Murong Xiao and Jing Yun. Ha ha ha, so what if the array was set up by the Wuxin Divine King? It was still broken by a feather god. Ling Tianzhua, get out of the way and we won't kill you. When Murong Xiao heard that the array was set up by the Wuxin Divine King, he was scared out of his wits. However, Night Sorrow broke the array in a moment, and he immediately felt a sense of joy from escaping death. After his encounter with Night Sorrow, Murong Xiao felt that all the knowledge he had accumulated in several reincarnations had been refreshed. Retreat. After witnessing Night Sorrow of the Feather God realm break the defensive array set up by the Wuxin Divine King, Ling Tianzhua was shocked and scared at the same time. He immediately used his body movement technique and flashed thousands of miles away. He had just witnessed the scene of Shangguan Jianyan being killed, and he knew that he was no match for Night Sorrow and the others. At least you know your place. Seeing Ling Tianzhua retreating with his people, Murong Zhao's face showed a trace of pride. Oh no. We may not be able to escape. At this moment, Night Sorrow, who had just broken the defensive array, frowned. His soul power sensed the arrival of a powerful cultivator. Good, very good. Murong Zhao, very good. As soon as Night Sorrow's voice fell, Shangguan Fusheng, who had rushed over with his people, flew over from the horizon. Before landing, Shangguan Fusheng, who was full of killing intent, shouted angrily. He had already received the news of Shangguan Jinyan's death. The insufferably arrogant Shangguan clan had 2 divine emperors killed in one day, including his own brother. This made the usually steady Shangguan Fusheng almost turn into a furious lion. Oh no, the great elder of the Shangguan clan is also here. He is also a middle-level divine emperor. We really can't escape this time. Seeing Shangguan Fusheng arrive with the great elder and the 6th elder, the hope that had just risen in Murong Zhao's heart disappeared in an instant. Shangguan Fusheng was a high-level divine emperor, the great elder Shangguan Ku was a middle-level divine emperor, and the 6th elder Shangguan Ming was a low-level divine emperor. Together with Ling Tianzhua, who would definitely take action, such a lineup was definitely not something the 3 of them could fight against. No matter how strong Night Sorrow was, he was only a feather god and could not be a match for a high-level divine emperor. As for his Jing Yun, she should not be a match for Shangguan Ku. Shangguan Fusheng, Shangguan Ku. I will kill you. Seeing the 3 divine emperors of the Shangguan clan, Jing Yun's originally calm face was suddenly covered with hatred. Her eyes were almost burning with flames as she roared loudly. Back when her clan was destroyed, both Shangguan Fusheng and Shangguan Ku had taken action. She remembered very clearly that her mother had been killed by Shangguan Fusheng, remnant of the Jing clan. How dare you show yourself? Don't even think about leaving today. Seeing Jing Yun, Shangguan Fusheng immediately remembered some things from back then and his eyes were bloodthirsty. I won't leave, and I will kill you with my own hands. I will avenge my mother. Jing Yun's eyes were almost filled with tears of blood. The scene of her clan's destruction kept appearing in her mind, and it almost made her collapse. Jing Yun, are they the people who destroyed your clan? Don't worry, I will find a way to avenge you. Seeing Jing Yun lose her composure, Night Sorrow patted her shoulder and comforted her. He was afraid that she would go crazy in her bad state. Yes. This Shangguan Fusheng is the murderer who killed my mother. I saw it with my own eyes, my mother. Speaking of this, Jing Yun's eyes were already filled with tears. She was choked with sobs and could not continue. At that time, Shangguan Fusheng had forcefully destroyed her current body, and that bloody mist was her biggest nightmare. It's too late to escape now. We will find a way to destroy them and avenge your clan. Chapter 2544. One was to seize the opportunity to escape into the god-suppressing pagoda and see if they could improve their strength. Night Sorrow would think of a way to become a high god, and Jing Yun would think of a way to become a Sir God. This was a very difficult choice, not to mention whether they could successfully break through the bottleneck. Even if they could succeed, the Shangguan clan would definitely send more Sir Gods, and they might even invite the Divine King, Wuxin. After all, this matter was related to High Base City, and Wuxin might be interested. If Wuxin was invited, he and Jing Yun would not be able to resist even if they became High Gods and Sir Gods. The second choice also required them to escape into the god-suppressing pagoda. This was mainly to stall for time and not give Shangguan Fusheng a chance to kill them. When the Murong clan arrived, Murong Zhao would persuade the Murong clan master to join forces to kill all the Shangguan clan. If the Murong clan master had enough ambition and courage, he would definitely attack the Shangguan clan when he saw such a good opportunity. 2 of the 8 Sir Gods of the Shangguan clan had died today, and only Shangguan Fusheng, Shangguan Ku, and Shangguan Ming had come to the God-suppressing pagoda. With the help of Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun, as long as the Murong clan sent a few Sir Gods, they would be able to kill the 3 Sir Gods of the Shangguan clan. In contrast, Knight Sorrow felt that the second choice was more reliable. He had heard from Murong Xiao that there was a Sir God-level cultivation room in the God-suppressing pagoda. This kind of Sir God-level cultivation room could not be broken even by an ordinary Sir God, but it was very expensive. After talking to Jing Yun, he looked at Murong Xiao and said, "Let's return to the God-suppressing pagoda, open a Sir God-level cultivation room, and hide in it to avoid the limelight. Alas, this is the only way. We can live a little longer." Shangguan Fusheng was still some distance away. Murong Xiao sighed and led Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun into the God-suppressing pagoda. The rich Knight Sorrow spent 200,000 divine crystals to purchase a divine lord-level cultivation room and use it for a year. Jing Yun, you cultivate first and see if you can break through to the Sir God level here. You can pass the tribulation here, so you have a chance to break through. At this moment, Jing Yun was still a little emotional. Her eyes were glistening with tears. Knight Sorrow had asked her to cultivate mainly to calm her emotions. Within a year, I will definitely break through to become a divine lord. Avenge your family with your own hands, Jing Yun said in a choked voice. She sat in a corner and began to comprehend quietly. Her cultivation had already reached the peak of the high god realm. She only needed to break through the bottleneck to receive the deity tribulation. Currently, her current state was very subtle. Knight Sorrow did not urge her to enter the accelerated space of the clear sky pagoda to comprehend. At this time, he looked at the restless Murong Xiao and said, "At present, we only have one way to survive. It's already like this. Do you still have a way out?" Hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Murong Xiao was a little confused. He felt that the 3 of them were just struggling at death's door. Even if 1 year later, with the divine crystals, he could continue to cultivate in the cultivation room, but it would only delay his death by a little. Of course there is a chance to live, and the key point is you. Knight Sorrow nodded and asked Murong Xiao, among the 3 big families, which one is the most powerful? Of course, the Shangguan family is the most powerful. Otherwise, would not be so desperate. Murong Xiao said with a bitter face. He thought that it was nonsense. Then, between the Murong family and the Ling family, who has a stronger background? Knight Sorrow, who was thinking about all the possibilities, continued to ask. The Ling family is related to the Dark Moon Dominator. Although they don't necessarily know the Dominator, their background is definitely stronger than the Murong family. Murong Xiao had a deep understanding of this problem. Among the 3 big families, the Murong family was the weakest in strength and background. This is the key to the problem. After hearing Murong Xiao's words, Knight Sorrow said firmly, "The Murong family has always been the weakest among the 3 big families. If you were the head of the Murong family and had a chance to kill the giant of the Shangguan family, would you seize it?" "You mean, you want me to persuade the head of the Murong family to attack the Shangguan family?" With the head of the Murong family's courage, he will definitely choose to attack when he has the absolute advantage. However, although the 3 of us and the Murong family's Sir Gods can crush the 3 Sir Gods of the Shangguan family, the Ling family is not easy to deal with. Although Murong Xiao was panicking, he was definitely a smart person. He immediately understood Knight Sorrow's meaning. The problem is that the Ling family's background is stronger than the Murong family's. If the Murong family can defeat the Shangguan family, they will be the ones who will benefit the most. Therefore, at present, the most dangerous ones are not us, but the 3 Sir Gods of the Shangguan family. Knight Sorrow analyzed the situation clearly and continued, "What we need to do now is to wait for the people of the Murong family to come. When the time comes, you and the head of the Murong family will have a clear relationship." "Okay. This should be our only chance to survive. I will seize it." Murong Xiao, who had a strong desire to survive, replied and began to think about what to say. If this matter succeeds, I will immediately release you from the oath of the heavenly law and let you return to the Murong family. Night Sorrow did not like to owe people. If Murong Shao could persuade the head of the Murong family, it would definitely be a great help to him. He would immediately return the favor. It seems that I have to say something about this matter. With Night Sorrow's guarantee, Murong Shao said solemnly, "Don't worry. This matter concerns our lives. I will do my best." After saying that, he took out the voice-transmitting stone and sent a message to the head of the Murong family. While Murong Shao and the head of the Murong family were talking, Night Sorrow was studying the function of the cultivation room. In this cultivation room, there was an area that could bring about the suppression of the divine realm at the level of a Sir God. It allowed the practitioners to comprehend the characteristics of the Sir God's ability in the suppression. This kind of cultivation is indeed very effective. Night Sorrow, who was cultivating in the Sir God realm, had a deeper understanding of the rules of heaven and earth with the help of the Mirage Dragon's Eye. He had just started cultivating, but the strength of his Taoist body had been further improved. With the progress of cultivation, Night Sorrow, who had thought that he had reached the peak of the Feather God realm, became stronger again. If I don't break through to the High God realm, will I become the strongest Feather God in the history of the divine realm? Night Sorrow, who was cultivating, entered a very mysterious state. With a deep foundation, his understanding of the Taoist body was gradually approaching that of a Sir God. Soon, he completed the High God realm of the immortal divine skill. It's done. The head of the Murong family asked us to go out and provoke the head of the Shengguan family. At that time, the Murong family will suddenly attack. Not long after, Night Sorrow's cultivation was interrupted by Murong Shao. After receiving the news, he said, "Ask the head of the Murong family to make an oath to cooperate with us." "Of course, I will do the same." Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Murong Shao was a little embarrassed. However, he still sent a message to the head of the Murong family. To his surprise, the head of the Murong family did not hesitate at all and immediately made an oath to cooperate with him. In this way, the cooperation between the two sides was completed. With the oath binding them, they did not have to worry about the other side going back on their words. Chapter 2545. Patriarch, is a mere feather god worthy of our attention? Do we need to make a heavenly oath to cooperate with him? Murong Shao wasn't the only one who couldn't figure out why Patriarch Murong Tsunghai was so easy to talk to. Great Elder Murong Kwa was also very puzzled. You don't understand the power of merit. Being able to form a relationship with Yi Sheng is my Murong family's fortune. Murong Tsunghai stroked his goatee and explained, people with merit can't be offended. Look at how powerful Shengguan clan is, ruling Langqi Mountain for several reincarnations. Just because we offended him, we started to have bad luck. We lost 2 divine monarchs in one day, and now we're facing a fatal blow. Is the concept of luck really so mysterious? Murong Tsunghai's words made Great Elder Murong Kwa fall into deep thought. It's definitely more mysterious than you think. I've heard of Night Sorrow long ago. He once caused a huge commotion in the Jinyuan Divine Monarch's cave. Even Shinshuyue, ranked 9th on the Feather God list, and the invincible Feather God by Luo hidden by the ruler's manor were no match for him. Murong Tsunghai continued, it said that he was only an upper Feather God at that time. How long has it been since then? He's already an invincible Feather God. This proves that he has the chance to become number 1 on the Feather God list. As long as this kind of person doesn't fall, becoming the Divine King is a certainty. They're coming out. Murong Tsunghai, as the Patriarch, had more information than Murong Kwa. He admired Night Sorrow very much. But before he finished speaking, he saw Night Sorrow and Murong Shao appear outside the God-suppressing pagoda. Jingyun was in a very mysterious state of enlightenment, so Night Sorrow didn't call her. You 2 bastards, I thought you would hide in there forever. Tell me, how do you want to die? Shengguan Fuxing immediately scolded when he saw Night Sorrow and Murong Shao slowly walk out of the God-suppressing pagoda. For several reincarnations, he had been the leader of Langqi Mountain and didn't give anyone face when he spoke. Shengguan Fusheng, you're good. Murong Xiao was called a bastard. Murong Canghai's heart was immediately filled with a nameless fire. That confirmed his determination to attack, but he didn't say anything for the time being. Beast? I think you, Shengguan Fusheng, are the beast. Your entire Shengguan clan is a beast. Since both sides had agreed to fight, Murong Xiao immediately became arrogant and started cursing the Shengguan clan. Murong Xiao, you are courting death. Who gave you the courage? Great Elder, go and kill him. Over the past few reincarnations, Shengguan Fusheng had always been the most authoritative person in Langqi Mountain, and he spoke with an air of arrogance. Patriarch, things are a little strange. Murong Xiao is not stupid. Now that he has come out, he must have something to rely on. First Elder Shengguan Ku realized that they were not invincible here. What are you afraid of? My Shengguan family's background is not something that his Murong family can compare to. You can be at ease and kill him. If Murong Canghai dares to make any moves, I will immediately summon the family's background. As the patriarch, Shengguan Fusheng's intelligence was online. He had strong confidence and obviously had a trump card in hand. Good. Since the patriarch said so, I will immediately go and kill Murong Xiao. First Elder Murong Ku heard Shengguan Fusheng's voice and immediately became confident. He pointed at Murong Xiao's nose and scolded, Murong Xiao, you killed 2 of my Shengguan family's monarchs. Today, no one can save you. After that, he took out a monarch-level halberd from his spatial device, the Heaven-Killing Halberd, and attacked Murong Xiao with a unique skill. Heaven-Killing Halberd. This move had the taste of destroying heaven and earth, and even the void was torn apart. Divine Dragon Lock Spell. Seeing that this move was so powerful, Night Sorrow was afraid that Murong Xiao would not be able to take it. Immediately, he used the Divine Dragon Lock spell to bind Shengguan Ku and create an opportunity for Murong Xiao. Twin Ghosts slammed the door. Seeing Night Sorrow use this move, Murong Xiao immediately used his twin hammers to perform a unique skill. This move was very stupid. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible to hit an opponent of the same level. However, with Night Sorrow restraining him, Murong Xiao was confident that he could hit Shengguan Ku. Child's play, break. At this time, Shengguan Ku, who was trapped in the enclosed space, shook his halberd and used a unique skill to break the enclosed space. Night Sorrow's divine core power was still weaker than Shengguan Ku's and could not trap an authentic middle-level monarch god. It's useless to break it. Take my hammer. Although Shengguan Ku quickly broke the Divine Dragon Lock spell, Murong Xiao's twin hammers were already in place and smashed towards Shengguan Ku's temples. Just a low-level monarch god. Let's see what you can do. Facing Murong Xiao's twin hammers, Shengguan Ku was slightly stunned. He counterattacked with his halberd and immediately shook it back. Murong Xiao was a low-level monarch god, 1 level lower than Shengguan Ku. He was indeed weaker than him and was quickly suppressed. Seeing Murong Xiao suppressed, Murong Canghai looked curiously at Night Sorrow. He did not know why Night Sorrow did not immediately attack when Murong Xiao was at a disadvantage. Shengguan Fusheng, who was paying attention to the battle and Murong Canghai, noticed Murong Canghai's gaze at Night Sorrow. He immediately transmitted a message to someone, Granduncle, the Murong clan is acting strangely. They want to harm our Shengguan clan. Please come to the god-suppressing pagoda quickly and kill them all. Okay. After a while, a cold voice was transmitted into Shengguan Fusheng's mind. At the same time, a figure meditating in the underground palace of the Shengguan clan immediately got up and rushed toward the god-suppressing pagoda. Seeing this, the people of the Ling clan laughed in their hearts and watched coldly. For them, the scene in front of them was definitely a dog-eat-dog fight. They guessed that after today, the 3 major clans of Langqi Mountain might become 2 major clans. Night Sorrow, why don't you attack? Murong Xiao, who had been passively taking a beating, thought that Night Sorrow would help him fight 2 against 1. Being suppressed by Shangguanku, the battle was very dangerous. Okay, I'll attack now. Withdraw from the battle and I'll fight him. Although Shangguanku was a middle-level divine lord, Knight Sorrow did not want to fight 2 against 1. He shouted at Murong Xiao to withdraw and stood in front of him. He said, "He's not your opponent. Let's fight. A mere feather god like you dares to challenge this elder?" Seeing Knight Sorrow standing in front of Murong Xiao, Shangguanku immediately disdained him. He had been a middle-level divine lord for many years and was not far from becoming a high-level divine lord. Naturally, he would not put a feather god in his eyes. After all, there was a gap of 5 levels between them. This was a gap that no one in the divine realm could cross. "I, a feather god, take this." Facing a middle-level divine lord, Knight Sorrow did not underestimate him. He immediately used the 7-star violent alcade. Then, facing Shangguanku, he used a unique skill that he had just learned. Sky-killing divine halberd. This was the unique skill that Knight Sorrow had just deduced while watching the battle. It came from Shangguanku and was the result of the evolution of the sea serpent's eye. Recently, the sea serpent's eye had been absorbing Knight Sorrow's divine origin energy and gradually improved to the level that Sea Serpent Yuan had mentioned. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.